A young man with light brown hair looks at his reflection with a troubled expression, questioning his new name, Leo. His modern self with black hair faces his new, medieval avatar, wondering if he's truly trapped inside the game. Leo turns his head slightly, a subtle, knowing smile gracing his lips. The door creaks open as a cheerful young woman with blonde hair, surrounded by white roses, invites Leo to gather mountain berries. The blonde woman playfully pushes a startled Leo forward, who expresses his reluctance to go again. Blushing slightly, Leo gives a nervous smile, clearly flustered by her forwardness. In a sun-drenched memory of a grassy hill, he reflects that his new body remembers their time together. While picking berries, the woman happily recounts something the Leslie pseudo-master wrote in a letter. Leo watches her talk, realizing he's learned many things from her in just a few days. The world is introduced as the border territory of Gaidan, where injuries are healed by the power of priests. The narration explains that the woman, Lena, wants to become one of these revered, haloed priests. Lena notices Leo staring and asks why he's looking at her that way, but he remains silent. Leo dismisses her concern while reaffirming his private mission. He is here to raise Lena as a princess. A regal portrait of Lena illustrates the game's fundamental goal, to turn her, the protagonist, into a princess. With a frustrated sigh, Leo wonders how he's supposed to accomplish such a difficult task. While picking berries, he decides his first step should be to find a prince. Lena watches him silently, a thoughtful expression on her face. The scene transitions to a quiet stone house in the countryside. Lena, now with long hair, gazes out a window, deciding to work indoors as it looks like it's going to rain. At breakfast, Lena announces she's heading to work, while another woman advises her to take it easy. Her companions express their concern, noting she has been out working all week. Lena looks down, a quiet, somber moment passing as she considers their words. She turns back with a bright, determined smile, insisting it's okay, and she'll just listen. At a bakery, a woman named Mrs. An greets the arriving Lena, surprised to see her there. Tying her hair back, Lena gets straight to business, asking if the dough is ready. Having donned an apron, Lena stands confidently before a fire, prepared to begin her work. As she kneads the dough, Lena thinks to herself that Leo has seemed strange these days. She recalls a memory of him, noting that while he's never been talkative, he now rarely speaks or even smiles. Pondering his behavior, she feels he's always lost in thought, staring off into the distance. She pauses her work, her mind still preoccupied with her worries about Leo. Her hands rest on the dough as her thoughts drift elsewhere. She worries that his strange behavior began when he decided to become a priest, knowing that priests cannot marry. As she leaves the bakery, a freckled man suddenly appears, making her wonder how he always shows up at the perfect time. The man offers to walk her home, and a smiling Lena gratefully accepts. He questions her commitment, but her thoughts reveal her dedication. She works all week just to study for the priesthood on weekends. In a divine vision, she asks a holy figure if it's truly possible for her to become their priest. Abruptly snapping out of her thoughts, Lena tells the bewildered man she's leaving and walks ahead alone. The freckled man watches her go, a look of disappointment on his face as he thinks of Leo. With a resolute expression, Lena continues on her path alone. Lying on his bed, Leo reflects that a month has passed since he entered this world, and his hope of it being a dream has faded. Faint memories of his past life of studying for exams echo in his mind, and he questions if that boring life is worth returning to. He resolves himself to his new reality, wondering if he should just continue living in this world. A sudden, loud thump startles him, causing him to sit bolt upright in bed. He grabs a nearby wooden board in shock, wondering what that sound was. The front door creaks open, revealing a tall, cloaked figure silhouetted in the doorway. Leo stares, stunned and alarmed, demanding to know who the mysterious visitor is. The cloaked man, revealing a stern face with a goatee, simply states that he knew Leo was home. He commands Leo to follow him, causing Leo to wonder in shock if this man is his father. The scene shifts to a pair of dirt-caked hands as an unseen person offers a prayer and a sacrifice to Lord Barbatos. The hands are raised toward the heavens, in a plea for the offering to be accepted and for their family to be protected. Kneeling in the forest, Leo wonders if the man he presumes is his father is a hunter. The stern man orders him to bleed the prey, leaving a startled Leo to question the command. The man seems to realize his mistake, thinking, "Oops," after seeing Leo's confusion. The stern man places a hand on Leo's shoulder, remaining silent and thoughtful. As the man's hands cup his head, a terrified Leo worries that his true identity has been discovered. Leo watches anxiously as the stern man turns away, the tense silence stretching between them. The man begins his lesson, demonstrating how to properly tie a rope around the animal's legs. Leo fumbles with the task, his awkwardness evident as he tries to follow the instructions. Though it's his first time, he's shocked to find his body instinctively knows the skilled motions. His work is interrupted as he suddenly spots Lena nearby, wondering what brought her here. Bathed in sunlight, the long-haired Lena appears and asks Leo if he wants to go out with her. He laughs nervously at her sudden invitation, and she explains she just wants to gather mushrooms. Leo silently watches his father work in the background, seemingly contemplating Lena's request. With a gentle smile, Lena makes the decision for him, saying it's time for them to go. They sit together in a quiet, sun-dappled clearing, sharing a moment of silence. Sensing a change in her mood, Leo looks at her with concern, wondering if something is wrong. Lena suddenly asks if he remembers, startling Leo, who stammers for clarification. A memory surfaces of a younger Lena gazing in awe at a radiant, white-robed figure. He calls her name, trying to pull her back from the memory she seems lost in. Blushing, Lena confesses that she wants to continue living a simple life and exploring the forest with him. Her sincere words leave him completely speechless and blushing deeply. She then asks him a critical question, whether he wants her to become a priest or not. Flustered and conflicted, he struggles to find the words to answer her profound question. He internally admits he always hoped to see her waiting after his hunting trips. His unspoken feelings are met with her bright, joyful laughter. The playful mood turns tender as they sit close, holding hands and gazing into each other's eyes. They walk home together through the moonlit forest, their hands clasped tightly. As they approach the village at night, he feels a strange new warmth in his heart. Their return is met by the ecstatic shouts of Priest Leslie, who joyfully proclaims Lena's arrival. Two other officials, a priestess and a holy knight, announce they are here to escort her to the cathedral. Lena turns to Leo, a look of shocked excitement on her face, exclaiming what a joyous occasion this is. Leo, however, looks on with a deeply worried and unsettled expression. The reality of the situation hits Lena as she realizes in shock that a priest specifically wants her. The priestess explains that a monk has praised her highly and formally invites her to the monastery. The offer is made clear. They will recommend her as a priest trainee, making Lena blush with hope. While Lena asks in disbelief if she can truly become a priest, Leo realizes he never thought she'd actually leave. As Lena joyfully tells him the news, he grimly recognizes this as a major in-game story event. His mind races, realizing a monastery means a castle, a king, and most importantly, a prince. He realizes a priest training might prevent her from meeting a prince, a goal he admits he'd already given up on. He anxiously wonders if Lena leaving means the end of this game and their simple life together. A gentle sadness crosses his face as he selfishly thinks it would be better for her to stay. Acting on his selfish wish, he suddenly takes her hand, his expression resolute. To everyone's shock, Lena rejects the offer to become a priest, telling them she wants to stay, which leaves the priest aghast at her refusal of a miraculous baptism. The word baptism jolts his memory, and he realizes with a shock that Lena had mentioned this before. He recalls the image of the sacred baptism rite, a priest bestowing a blessing upon a kneeling trainee. This ceremony is a great sacrifice, costing the priest half their divine power, reserved only for the best students. Priest Leslie explains that this moment is the crossroads determining if one becomes a true priest or just a powerless monk. He gently reminds her of her dedication to God and pleads with her to reconsider her decision. The priestess gives Lena a final chance, telling her they leave in the morning if she changes her mind. After Lena's refusal, she and Leo walk home together, holding hands in the quiet village night. A troubled Leo wonders what he should do, but Lena gets his attention by calling his name. Lena confesses with a blush that she's happy just being with him, and that's all she needs. Visibly moved and pained, Leo can only say her name in response. Overcome with emotion, he pulls her into a heartfelt embrace. He closes his eyes and vows to make her happy for the rest of her life. With tears streaming down his face, he asks her to promise she'll never regret her choice. She smiles warmly, hugging him back with peaceful contentment. Later, Leo's stern father sits in a tavern, taking a long drink from a wooden mug. Leo prompts his silent father, thinking that while he's not talkative, he should react to the news of his son getting married. Bang! His father slams the mug onto the table, startling a wide-eyed Leo. Without a word, the stern man gets up and walks away, leaving Leo watching in confusion. He returns and places a small money sack on the table, and a surprised Leo wonders what it is. His father explains it's money he saved from his work and tells Leo to use it for the wedding. Leo smiles, touched by the gesture, and begins to thank his father. A bell chimes, heralding the arrival of the wedding day. Lena stands beautifully in a simple green gown, holding a bouquet of white lilies for her wedding. The freckled man watches from the side, remarking how especially beautiful Lena looks today. Priest Leslie approaches the couple, announcing he has a gift for Lena. Lena is overcome with emotion, addressing him as monk. As he smiles kindly at her, he presents her with a ribbon-wrapped theological book as a wedding gift. In front of the gathered villagers, the monk offers a final blessing for her future. In a memory, a younger Lena cries tears of joy after receiving the book from Monk Leslie. Back at the wedding, Leo, now in a white tunic, reaches out his hand to his bride. The priest stands before the altar, bestowing his blessing upon their union. The village congregation, including Priest Leslie, applauds with joyous smiles. Wah! In a moment of pure bliss, Lena leaps into Leo's waiting arms. He laughs, his face beaming with happiness as he begins to say, "I love you." The joyful scene suddenly glitches, and a system notification announces that Lena has gotten married. As the world distorts, Lena's hair turns silver white in his arms, leaving Leo stunned. He finds himself standing alone in the empty, glitching church, calling out her name in confusion. In a dark void, he reaches out helplessly, crying as he begins to fade. The world dissolves into a mess of digital static and broken fragments. Facing a wall of static, he screams Lena's name in despair. A final message appears on the screen. Thank you for playing Raising Lena. Leo stands alone in a shower of golden light, looking up at a radiant, framed portrait of Lena. The player's spirit, a black-haired man, is shown as a system window displays the childhood friend ending, confirming their peaceful life as husband and wife. A glitching book details their happy life together, while the player's form destabilizes violently. The black-haired man stands in a digital void, his shadow separating from his body as he questions what's happening. Staring at his own glitching hand, he has a horrifying realization. He is Leo. He desperately reaches into a lone spotlight, calling out for Lena and saying he misses her. A memory of another woman, China, surfaces as he recalls her name. Panic sets in as he realizes, with grim determination, that he must escape this place. Glitching messages confirm his failure to clear the game's main goal, despite achieving a happy ending with Lena. A final terrifying message declares, "It will start again." As his eye widens in horror, he screams in defiance, refusing to accept it as his body begins to pixelate and disintegrate. His form dissolves as he is pulled backwards, falling through a swirling vortex of stars. He lets out a final, desperate "no" as he plummets through the void. The scene shifts to a vast, quiet landscape of snow-covered mountains and trees. A black-haired man in armor stands alone in the snow, a sword in his hand, wondering about his eyes. Disoriented, a silver-haired woman carrying a wooden board asks why he is staring so intently and threatens to hit him. A wave of dizziness hits the black-haired man as he clutches his forehead in pain. He stares at his hands, one of which is a ghostly blue outline, and wonders why he's acting this way again. Thwack, he's struck on the head, letting out a pained cough. Holding his head in confusion, he hears someone shout his name again. "Hey! Leo!" Leo looks up to see the silver-haired woman with a sword on her back, recognizing her as Lena, but different. The memory of the sweet, joyful Lena he knew shatters as he realizes she's not the same person. He finds himself in a vast, snow-covered estate, a completely new and unfamiliar setting. His hands glitch as he stands silently, realizing he's been thrown into a completely different scenario. A class selection screen appears, offering choices like Merchant and Bard, with the cursor highlighting Retired Knight. A scroll explains that the player's starting point is determined by the Guardian's chosen occupation, displaying the Knight. Now in a library, Leo reads a book that identifies his new location as the Aston Kingdom. A map reveals the Aston Kingdom, one of 7 kingdoms on the continent, ruled by a mix of feudal and tribal systems. In this scenario, Lena Einar is introduced as the daughter of Dehorman, a great warrior from the Einar tribe. Leo Dexter is now the eldest son of a renowned knight family, standing beside his stern-looking father. Back in the library, Leo finds a small silver lining to his situation. His only consolation is that he's still on the same continent, and he spots Demos Village on the map. He continues his research, noting that the capital of the Jerome Holy Kingdom seems very far away. Suddenly, Lena bursts into the room asking where he is, startling him. Panicked, Leo quickly tries to hide the book on a high shelf as Lena enters. Lena eyes him suspiciously, asking what he's doing there while he looks away nervously. She calls his recent behavior strange, but he deflects by saying he's planning a trip, which she finds sudden. He trails off, nervously wondering what would happen if he couldn't become a knight. Lena cuts him off with fierce determination, declaring that failure is not an option. She strikes a proud, confident pose, radiating with heroic energy. Grabbing his hand, she declares it's time to train, and he realizes this Lena is solely focused on becoming a knight. In a snowy courtyard, Leo and Lena face off with training swords as his father watches from a distance. Their wooden swords clash as Lena presses her attack against a defensive Leo. She expertly trips him with her sword, sending him stumbling back as he curses her. His father furiously shouts from the sidelines, berating him for his clumsy and useless movements. His father strikes him with a wooden sword, ignoring his pleas, as he yells that there are no second chances in a real fight. Slap! The training sword is thrown to the ground as his father declares the session over for the day. As his father walks away, Lena approaches the fallen Leo and asks what's wrong with him. Leo reflects bitterly on how he's the only one getting beaten up. Lena questions his sudden lack of skill, reminding him that swordsmanship is his specialty before demonstrating a powerful swing. His body instinctively reacts with a burst of blue energy, dodging her practice swing. At a grand dinner table, Lena's father, Dehorman, asks a question with a what. Dehorman casually picks his teeth, asking about the rumor that Leo is wielding his sword strangely. Leo's father looks pained, dismissing it as nonsense, but admitting it's as if Leo's forgotten how to use a sword. Laughing loudly, Dehorman claps Leo's father on the back, brushing it off as a young man's whim. Dehorman silences his friend's protests, telling him not to discourage his future son-in-law. Leo is stunned by the term son-in-law, as a woman asks him to go find Lena. He forces a smile and nervously agrees to the request. As he leaves the room, he's still reeling from being called a future son-in-law. A memory of his promise to marry Lena surfaces, and he realizes the new goal is to make her a princess. Clenching his teeth in frustration, he despairs at the seemingly impossible task and fears repeating the same meaningless ending. His resolve hardens as he vows that he cannot live through this loop again and must find a way to return home. Stepping outside, he's met by Lena, who runs up to him asking what he's doing. He looks past her with a worried expression, ignoring her question and asking where she is. Phew, Leo sighs, concluding there's no other way to handle his predicament. He pictures a happy Lena, steeling himself with the thought that he must be mean and break off their engagement. The moment he makes his decision, he's shown carrying a drunk Lena over his shoulder. A woman asks him to take Lena to her room, and he internally groans at the unwelcome task. As he helps the stumbling Lena, telling her to get a grip, she looks up at him and murmurs his name. Leaning in close, a flushed Lena tells him he's been strange lately, and demands he tell her everything over more beer. Leo blushes furiously, rendered speechless by her sudden proximity. Decisively, he grabs her arm and pulls her toward her room. He pushes her inside, sending her stumbling forward across the carpeted floor. Thump Lena lands softly on her bed, her heart pounding as she looks up with a blush. The scene shifts to a snowy mountain pass, where Lena runs with a cheerful grin. Arriving at a bustling work camp, a man with a red bandana calls out a friendly greeting to Lena. A man chides the relaxed Lena for being late, but she just laughs it off, saying she overslept. Clenching their fist, a character thinks that their current state is all Leo's fault. Lena, looking flushed and annoyed, thinks about how she couldn't sleep at all. Lena recalls the old Leo, her kind, boring, and well-mannered knight who never refused a request. But now, she thinks, he's changed, as she's shown practicing with a large blade. She remembers their sparring, noting that his previously stable and heavy swordsmanship has become unusual. Looking at her reflection, she thinks his new, aggressive style isn't knightly at all. A thoughtful look crosses her face as she considers this change, thinking, But spotting Leo behind some crates, she waves and calls out to him. Leo approaches, joking he thought he'd die from the beating. As a confused Lena laughs. She asks if his uncle beat him again, then smiles warmly, admitting she likes the current Leo too. A flustered Leo looks away, blushing at her unexpected compliment. Lena waves goodbye to the others, cheerfully announcing that she and her husband are leaving first. Startled by her words, Leo grabs her arm with a shocked expression. He sighs, amazed she's not upset about yesterday, as she innocently asks if something is wrong. With a confident grin, Lena promises to teach him everything if he just follows her lead. She links her arm with his, smiling brightly as he walks beside her with a conflicted look. Standing in the snowy woods, Leo gazes into the distance with renewed determination. He examines tracks in the snow, realizing his quarry went in a specific direction. Leo points forward, shouting, "Over there!" to the two hunters accompanying him. Grr! From the shadows of the forest, the glowing eyes of a massive tusked boar glare menacingly. The monstrous boar charges out of the woods, bearing down on the three hunters. One of the men dashes forward, his spear glowing with a faint blue light. A violent spray of blood erupts as a powerful blow lands. The massive boar stumbles and begins to fall as the hunters look on. The hunting party stands over the defeated boar, now impaled with multiple spears. Dehorman laughs heartily, declaring he's chosen an excellent bridegroom, and mocking Noel's poor hunting skills compared to his son's. An impressed Lena confronts Leo, demanding to know how he's so good at hunting. Leo looks away awkwardly, struggling to find an answer to her direct question. A year has passed, and after coming of age, Lena and Leo joined a hunting party led by Dehorman. Lena pumps her fist, declaring it's time to save face on the hunt. As they head off into the woods, an older man shouts after them not to go too far. Leo playfully calls out to Lena, who turns just in time to see a snowball flying at her face. Splat! The snowball hits her, and she glares back, covered in snow, growling, "You." As Leo laughs, Lena's voice declares that he's so dead. Pow! A snowball smacks Leo right in the face, wiping the smile off it. With a menacing grin, Lena winds up another snowball, challenging him to dodge it. Ooh-ah! She leaps into the air and unleashes a flurry of snowballs as Leo begs her to wait. With a triumphant smirk, Lena stands over the fallen Leo in the snow and asks if he surrenders. Lying in the snow with a grin, Leo cheerfully admits defeat and takes her offered hand. A memory or vision shows a blushing, blonde-haired young man with blue eyes smiling gently. Ack. Back in the snowy woods, Lena is confused when Leo's hand sinks deep into the snow as he cries out. The winter wind howls through the barren trees, carrying a sense of mystery and foreboding. Peering into the hole in the snow, Leo tells a curious Lena to hold on, thinking something is down there. Lena eagerly suggests they check it out before it gets away, but a cautious Leo advises reporting it first due to potential danger. Leo maintains his serious expression, insisting it's better to report their finding before taking any action. Lena looks back at him, momentarily speechless and a little flustered by his cautiousness. A magnificent white fox with piercing blue eyes and a fluffy tail emerges from the snow, staring them down. Kia! The creature, identified as a mythic fox, lets out a fierce shriek, revealing itself to be a magical beast, Kua. With a mighty roar, Dehorman leaps into the fray, brandishing a massive two-handed sword. Kaya the mythic fox screeches as Dehorman's blade lands a bloody blow. His face splattered with blood, a ferocious Dehorman commands everyone to attack. The hunting party descends upon the mythic fox, their axes and spears ready for the kill. Whoa! As the hunting party cheers in the background, Leo stands with a calm, knowing look on his face. Leo internally questions if this was a game event, wondering why he and Lena were the first to find a beast too strong for just two people. The scene shifts to a formal meeting where Dehorman addresses Leo's father and others around a large wooden table. Dehorman looks intently at Leo's father and gets straight to the point, asking and so. Holding a declaration, Dehorman announces that the Kingdom of Aston has declared war on the Kingdom of Alita. Leo's father explains that Aston has always coveted the rich, fertile lands of Velita. As Dehorman discusses troop movements from Fort Avral, Leo's father scoffs at the absurd order for him to guard the southwest border. A woman laments the foolishness of nobles, while Leo's only thought is a worried one. What about Lena? Dehorman delivers the grave news, stating that Lena is going to take part in the war. With a brilliant, confident smile, Lena declares that as the daughter of a warlord, she will definitely be needed. Someone praises the war as good experience for Lena's knighthood, but a worried woman beside them cries out her name in distress. Lena calmly reassures her mother that going to war is the right thing to do as a warrior, while her mother acknowledges this but remains worried. Leo realizes his plan failed. Had Lena been injured by the mythic fox, she wouldn't have been able to participate in the war. He thinks that knowing about the war beforehand doesn't mean he's willingly sending a bloodied and defeated Lena to her death. Dehorman comforts his tearful wife while Lena gives them a reassuring smile. Watching the family, Leo wonders if there's no choice but to let the event play out and watch Lena leave. Later, Leo's father sits alone, quietly reading a book by the window as the sun sets. Leo approaches his father from behind, and the older man looks up from his book to acknowledge him. With firm resolve, Leo announces to his father that he will also be joining the war. Thump. His father slams the book shut on the table, sternly declaring, "I won't allow it." Leo reflects on his current body's unstable swordsmanship, realizing he's become more reckless than before. His father calls the idea suicide given his current skill level, but Leo desperately argues that war doesn't automatically mean death. Enraged, his father calls him a whelp, furiously questioning his naive understanding of what happens in war. The father continues his tirade, threatening to smash Leo's legs if he keeps spouting nonsense about participating. As his father orders him out, a desperate Leo turns back, his thoughts still on Lena. Ignoring his son's plea, the father yells one final command, "Get out!" From the doorway, Leo sees his father slump into his chair, looking weary and defeated. Staring grimly ahead, Leo clenches his fist, his mind set on protecting Lena. Suddenly, his father violently throws him to the ground, yelling, "You insolent brat!" Pinning Leo down, his father reveals he knows about the secret application to become a knight of Castle Averill. Gritting his teeth in pain and frustration, Leo lies trapped under his father's foot. Walking through a snowy town, Leo reflects that he wasn't able to find any other way to change his fate. He arrives in a lively village square where people are laughing and gathering as the sun sets. Gazing at the horizon, Leo realizes he has no choice but to wait for the day of deployment. In a quiet, snowy courtyard, Lena trains diligently with her sword against the warm glow of the setting sun. A blonde-haired woman in armor challenges an unseen opponent to a match. Leo, a brown-haired man, silently readies his wooden practice sword with a serious expression. HMPH. The blonde-haired woman smirks confidently, flexing her clawed gloves as she prepares to fight. After setting a wooden chair nearby, she warns her opponent to be careful. Swinging her sword, the blonde-haired woman boasts that her body is in perfect condition. They face each other in a training yard, swords held ready for their duel. The blonde-haired woman takes a steady stance, her focus locked on her opponent. Leo's eyes narrow with determination, realizing his current skill isn't enough to shake her. Whop! With a powerful shout, he leaps into the air, bringing his sword down in a glowing strike. Their wooden swords meet with a brilliant flash of blue energy. The woman easily parries his attack, forcing him to duck under her swift, glowing counterswing. Leo looks on in shock as his opponent's sword begins to glow with an intense red aura. Their blades lock again in a burst of light, Leo straining against her superior strength. The two warriors trade blows in a fierce, fast-paced duel. He lunges forward. Grabbing her wrist to stop her glowing blade just inches from him, she deftly pivots, landing a kick that sends him stumbling backward. He clenches his fist, holding her wrist in a tight grip. With a surge of red energy, Leo overpowers her, their swords locked in a tense struggle. The woman smirks with surprise and a hint of pleasure, asking if he's improved. Grinning, Leo replies that he wasn't just idling around. Their duel becomes a blur of motion and crackling blue energy as they exchange rapid strikes. Sparks fly as the woman fiercely blocks his strike, her eyes glinting with excitement. Leo cries out as he takes a decisive hit. Defeated on the ground, Leo looks up as the victorious woman calls his name. Gritting his teeth, he thinks he can't believe it ended so quickly, remembering her promise to face him again after the war. In a sudden reversal, the woman is now on the ground, angrily shouting at him. Her anger quickly turns to wide-eyed shock. She lies on the ground. Leo gazes down at her, his expression soft and somber. Lying in the grass, the blonde-haired woman looks up at him with a gentle smile. He touches his face, murmuring, Stupid, to himself. Leaning down, Leo gently kisses the surprised woman. Later, his boots lie discarded on an ornate rug next to a bed. The next morning, Leo stirs in bed, reaching for the person beside him. Waking up, he quietly calls out Lena. He bolts upright in a panic, yelling Lena's name as he rushes out of the room. A blonde-haired man with a long ponytail and goatee laughs boisterously. The man teases the flustered Leo and blushing Lena for messing around as an unmarried couple, threatening to smash their legs. A blushing Lena complains that it's unfair to threaten someone who is about to go to war. The older man invites Leo to breakfast, and he reluctantly agrees to join them. Soldiers gather before the imposing gates of a massive stone castle. The older man bids Lena farewell, asking her to remain healthy until he comes back. He lets out a weary sigh, placing a comforting hand on Leo's shoulder. In the castle courtyard, Leo and Lena stand facing each other for a final goodbye. They share a quiet, meaningful look, their expressions a mix of sadness and affection. Lena smiles brightly, promising Leo she will come back. Leo suddenly pulls her into a tight, desperate embrace. Holding her close, he begs her to be safe and not get hurt. Lena pulls away with a confident smile, promising she will be a knight when she returns. The sound of a horn echoes across the courtyard, signaling the army's departure. Leo stands stoically, watching as Lena and the other soldiers prepare to march to war. In a flashback, a troop of soldiers marches out from the gates of a large stone castle. A dark-haired man swings his sword in a powerful, glowing arc, recalling that he fought with all his might. He remembers his plan. After gaining his father's approval, he would find Lena and join the battle. Bathed in sunlight, the determined, sweating man looks toward the sky. In a distorted, horrifying memory, he falls from the castle walls. As a notification appears, Lena has died. A framed portrait shows a triumphant, scarred, white-haired woman warrior in the heat of battle. The dark-haired man stands alone under a spotlight as a message thanks him for playing Raising Lena. Overwhelmed by the game's tragic ending, the man clutches his shirt and cries. A final status screen displays the fates of Lena Einar and Leo Dexter. Both died single, with Lena's death deemed honorable. Leo Dexter stares in disbelief at the result, wondering if all his effort was in vain. An open book details the lore. Lena died a warrior, while Leo died a knight, never having married. Leo clenches his fist in anguish, lamenting that he couldn't be by her side, before collapsing in despair, calling himself pathetic. A thought bubble speculates that Leo, left behind in that world, may have died early from the shame of his failure. Kneeling in a golden light, Leo reflects that while his last attempt focused on hunting, this time, swordsmanship might be better. He considers a new strategy, becoming so overwhelmingly powerful that he can crush any obstacle. A restart button appears over a sprawling medieval city, signaling a new playthrough. A new life begins, showing a thin young man with blonde hair and determined golden eyes. The blonde man sits silently in a desolate, sunlit alley, looking around a dark, unfamiliar space. He realizes with dismay that he's in a different place again. Tears well in his eyes as he spots a frail blonde girl nearby, recognizing her as he whispers, Lena. The girl, Lena, looks up weakly, her eyes glazed over as she says, I'm hungry. The blonde man examines her, noting to himself that something is off with this version of Leo compared to his previous attempts. He observes that Lena seems no different and questions why this Leo allowed her to fall into such a desperate state. Lena weakly calls him brother and begs for water, saying she's thirsty. The blonde man realizes they are siblings in this world and that Lena is in a terrible, life-threatening condition. Cradling her, he resolves that she will die if he doesn't do something immediately. The scene shifts to a bustling and prosperous town square filled with people. The blonde man staggers through the crowd, thinking that in this life, they are living together as beggars. His gaze lands on a food stall, his hunger palpable as he watches others go about their day. Overcome by starvation, he lurches toward a building, his mind consumed by the thought of food. At a butcher's stall, the muscular vendor scowls at the approaching blonde man, annoyed by the sight of a beggar. The butcher grabs a heavy wooden club and strides purposefully toward the blonde man in the middle of the market. The butcher angrily confronts the blonde man, brandishing the club and telling him to get lost. Firmly gripping the club, the butcher threatens the blonde man, telling him to leave while he's being nice. The blonde man tries to apologize, insisting he wasn't stealing, but the butcher just tells him to get lost. Desperate, the blonde man pleads for anything to eat, promising he will repay the debt. The butcher snaps, raising his club furiously and asking if the boy wants to get hit. The blonde man's expression hardens as he thinks that if he backs down, he and Lena will both die. He blocks the club with his forehead, shocking the butcher, who pauses in surprise. Trembling with desperation, the blonde man begs for any unsellable scraps like chicken heads or feet, asking him to please help. Scratching his head in frustration, the butcher explains that giving away food will get him in trouble with other merchants for encouraging beggars. The blonde man bows low, apologizing profusely and pleading for help for his starving younger sister. With a heavy sigh, the butcher relents and tells him to wait, giving the blonde man a glimmer of hope. Back in their alley, the two siblings greedily devour the raw meat scraps. After eating, the blonde man feels relief but now realizes their desperate need for water to drink. He watches the city dwellers pass by, thinking that a river must be somewhere nearby. He turns to Lena and asks if she knows where they can find a river. Lena just shakes her head blankly, making the blonde man realize she's completely clueless. His gaze falls upon a stagnant puddle of dirty water on the wooden floor between them. He considers the filthy water, knowing it will make them sick, when a sudden glint within it catches his eye. Examining a silver pendant with glowing blue runes, a character wonders what it is. The blonde-haired young man's gaze drifts to Lena, noticing she wears a similar necklace as he recalls it. He clutches the pendant, thinking it must be an important item, as Lena calls out to her brother. Lena suggests they head home before it gets too dark, and the dazed young man agrees. A young man with blonde hair smirks, musing about having a home but no food or water, then asks Lena for directions, claiming he forgot the way. With a playful smile, Lena teases him for not knowing everything and offers her hand to lead the way. As Lena yawns under a large cloak, the young man wonders why they're living alone and fears being kicked out by the property owner. Peeking from under the cloak, Lena asks if they've only recently become beggars and urges her brother to come inside. Exhausted, Lena collapses onto the floor, declaring that she's tired. As she prepares to sleep, the young man gently stops her, insisting she should at least wash up first. He cups her face, his heart aching at her filthy condition, and decides he must at least wash her face. With a gentle and determined expression, he gazes down at her. After being cleaned, Lena's face is revealed to be beautiful and radiant. Her bright golden eyes meet his as she innocently asks what's wrong. He laughs it off, saying it's nothing, and they happily agree to go to sleep. Lena sleeps peacefully, her hand clutching the blue pendant around her neck. Watching over her, Leo quietly reflects that he thought he could manage things somehow. An internal monologue reveals this scenario is unusually harsh, unlike others where the power dynamic between Leo and Lena is different. He reflects that since this version of Lena is younger, he had hoped to build a better foundation for her this time. Gazing at her sleeping form, he can't help but think that Lena is far too lovely. The narrative explains the dark reality of their world, where slavery is legal and beautiful beggars like Lena are prime targets for slave traders. He realizes the original Leo must have intentionally kept her hidden and dirty to protect her from that fate, which is why she was unaware of where to find water. Clutching the pendant, he concludes that the mysterious item must be connected to their family lineage. An info screen displays two magical items, a ring and a necklace, questioning their mysterious origins and connection. He identifies their situation as a classic secret birthright storyline, one that provides a clear path to an ending where Lena reclaims her throne. Lying beside her, Leo holds her hand and quietly wishes he was stronger. The scene flashes back to a grand, sunlit hall where a young blonde boy walks alone. The boy playfully pops out from behind a curtain, surprising a little blonde girl he calls his pretty princess. A close-up reveals the little girl's delighted and joyful expression. In the magnificent hall, the boy happily lifts the little girl into the air. Returning to the present, Lena sits in a desolate alley and notes that Leo is up early. She proudly announces that she woke up first, and Leo reminds her to drink her water. Noticing her mug is still half full, Leo takes a sip himself. He offers the rest to Lena, who initially refuses, but he insists the water was originally for her. With a sad look, Lena takes the mug, admitting she had already finished her own share. Leo smiles warmly as he watches her drink the rest of the water. Gently taking her hand, Leo tells a hungry Lena that it's time for them to go, and she agrees. They sit together in a bustling marketplace as vendors shout about their exotic fruits and premium jewels. Over time, Leo realizes their location is Orville, the capital city of the Kingdom of Velita. A narration describes a distant past when a human empire rose to power, driving out other races to establish an age of humans. That empire, known as Archaea, eventually fractured into 7 separate kingdoms. A map highlights the Kingdom of Velita, which is said to have inherited the greatest legacy of the old empire. As a wealthy nation, its people are described as having a fiercely greedy nature. Exhausted, Leo collapses to the ground, wishing he could find someone to entrust Lena's care to. A sharp pair of golden eyes look on in confusion. He looks up in shock to see Lena has collapsed on the ground, and he calls out her name. Rushing to her side, a panicked Leo desperately asks if she is okay. Leaning against him weakly, Lena whispers that she feels dizzy. Leo feels her forehead and realizes with dread that she has a high fever and is covered in red spots. Telling the ailing Lena to wait, he decides to go find a hospital and return for her. With panicked eyes, Leo dashes through the cobblestone streets of the town. Frantic and out of breath, he despairs internally that he can't find the hospital anywhere. Turning to the indifferent crowd, he desperately asks for directions, explaining that his sister is sick. He falls to his knees amidst the uncaring townspeople, pleading for someone to help him. As sweat drips down his face, Leo looks up, confused by a sudden sound or voice. An old woman in a brown hood approaches, asking if he's looking for a hospital and pointing the way. The old woman looks on with a strange intensity, urging him to hurry to his sick younger sister. Now carrying Lena on his back, a panting Leo thinks he feels like he's going to die from exhaustion. He struggles onward, lamenting how thin and weak his body is in this particular scenario. Lena murmurs weakly about a dream, and Leo reassures her that they are almost there. He finally stumbles up to a stone building, marked with a large green cross. The hospital at last. Gasping for air, he pushes through the doorway, carrying the limp form of his sister. A stern-looking man with a white bandana and golden eyes glares at their arrival. Blocking their path, the man cruelly orders them to get lost unless they have money to pay. The man grabs a desperate Leo, who promises to pay later, but someone else grabs the man's arm. With a violent shove, the man throws both Leo and Lena to the stone floor outside. Leo desperately calls out to the unconscious Lena as the man watches coldly from the doorway. Grabbing the man's leg, Leo pleads that he will find a way to pay for the treatment. Enraged, the man scoffs at his pleas and brutally kicks him away. Gritting his teeth, Leo endures the kick, his eyes filled with fierce determination. As his pendant glows with blue light, he has a sudden idea, realizing it might be the key. Kneeling in defeat, Leo clutches the glowing pendant, his last hope for saving Lena. The man mocks his desperation, tossing a small pouch and threateningly starting a 3 count. A defeated Leo listens as the man coldly begins his countdown. 1, 2. Just as the man says 3, a woman with long dark hair calmly intervenes, offering to pay for them. With a cool and steady gaze, the dark-haired woman confirms she will handle the situation. As the hospital worker walks off, the woman kneels down and asks a stunned Leo if he's okay. Looking up with a bruised cheek, Leo weakly thanks his mysterious savior. Leo suddenly awakens with a start, finding himself bandaged and resting in an unfamiliar room. He looks around the workshop-like room, his first thoughts consumed with worry for Lena. Sitting up in a panic, he desperately calls out his sister's name. A voice calls out that he's awake and tells him to come over, drawing his attention to a nearby door. He turns to see the dark-haired woman who saved them, now sitting on the edge of a bed. His eyes widen in horror as he sees Lena lying pale and unconscious in the bed. Rushing to her side, Leo frantically asks if Lena will be okay, and the woman confirms she's received treatment. The woman scoffs, calling the local doctors quacks who know nothing and rely too heavily on priests' healing. When Leo asks what she means, she explains the doctor gave a weak diagnosis, that Lena just ate something bad. She dismisses the examination as something even she could have done, leaving Leo speechless. Leo asks what to do, and the woman tells him to just wait, though he considers finding a priest. Watching the feverish Lena, the woman admits that proper treatment is far too expensive for her to afford. Leo thanks her for her help, but she brushes it off, saying she did it for herself and they can stay since her shop is empty. As she turns to leave, Leo stops her, asking for her name. Surprised, she listens as he explains he doesn't know what to call her. With a slight smile, the woman introduces herself as Cassia. At Lena's bedside, Leo holds her hand, puzzled as to how she got so sick when they ate the same food. A dark flashback reveals a sinister-looking Leo offering a piece of food to Lena, who innocently agrees to eat it. Back in the present, Leo wonders if Lena getting sick was a predetermined event in this scenario. He dismisses the thought, realizing her condition is so severe she could die, which seems too random for a game event. He reasons that while meeting Katsuya might be a plot point, Lena starting off gravely ill makes this scenario incredibly difficult. With a determined look, the bandaged, blonde-haired Leo decides to reevaluate the situation. He recalls a sickly Lena whispering she was thirsty, yet she had barely drunk any water that morning. His eyes widen in sudden, horrifying realization. He remembers seeing Lena about to drink dirty water from the ground while he was away getting food. Overcome with guilt, he realizes he left her alone in her desperate state. He watches over her sickbed, blaming himself and praying for her survival. Tears stream from his eye as he clasps his hands, haunted by his sister's voice calling for her brother. Waking up, the now blonde-haired Lena tells Leo she had a dream as he offers her water. Lena asks why he's crying when he was laughing in her dream, as he gently helps her sit up. Overwhelmed with relief and sorrow, Leo breaks down in tears while holding her. Lena weakly takes a drink from the mug he offers. As she drifts back to sleep, he hopes a good rest will help her recover by tomorrow. He holds his sleeping sister, quietly urging her to drink more. A sharp glint of light reflects in his determined golden eye. A system window suddenly appears over the tender moment, coldly announcing that Lena has died. Leo stares in shock and grief at the notification, confirming his failure. A vision shows Lena lying peacefully in a coffin, before shifting to Leo standing alone in a spotlight. A game over screen appears, detailing the beggar siblings' ending, Beauty's downfall for Lena and Leo de Uriel. Story summaries for Lena and Leo are displayed as he thinks with despair that he carelessly caused her death. A dark-haired man screams in fury at his failure, cursing himself as a useless fool. The scene returns to Leo holding his sleeping sister, but his expression is now dark and knowing. Another system message appears before the grieving Leo, simply stating, "Thank you for playing." The dark-haired man scoffs at a notification offering initial funds, finding it a hollow gesture. In a sunlit forest, a light brown-haired woman excitedly points out a squirrel to a brown-haired Leo. She explains that seeing the creature is a sign of good luck, but Leo seems lost in thought. She calls out his name, trying to get his attention. A different Lena, with short, light brown hair, looks confused after Leo suddenly shouts her name. Leo, now with a different appearance, smiles warmly at the light brown-haired Lena and says, "I'm back." He stands and watches as she walks ahead of him into the woods. He resolves to start over with Lena from the very beginning, haunted by vivid memories of the past. He admits to himself that he can't handle the constant repetition and that it's unfair to Lena. She turns back, sensing his distress, as he thinks about how this cycle only ends when she becomes a princess. He dismisses her concerns, privately worrying that if she remembers the past, they'll be trapped forever. Huffing in frustration, he watches her walk away through the glittering forest. A choice tree shows one path. If he sends Lena away to the church, she becomes a princess. The other path reveals that if he doesn't send her away, they end up getting married. Leo sighs in frustration, realizing he's trapped in a no-win scenario. He mutters that the situation is driving him crazy, his eyes narrowed with stress. Jingle. He discovers a small pouch of coins, wondering where it came from. The system notification appears again, explaining that he's been given initial funds for failing to save his sister from poverty. A confident grin spreads across his face as he realizes the money is their ticket to a capital city. He recalls that the capital church event is held in autumn, watching Lena in the forest. Before setting his plan in motion, he decides to get his father's approval while on a hunting trip. His father praises Leo's improved hunting skills while they eat by the campfire. Leo prepares to have a serious conversation with his father. He presents the pouch of money, claiming he sold a bear he caught in a trap. His father is skeptical, but Leo confidently explains how he cleverly managed to trap the animal. Leo declares his plan to take Lena to the capital church, acknowledging he can't send her alone. He asks his father for permission to go with her, and the man falls into silent thought. His father approaches him, their conversation by the crackling campfire reaching a critical point. Leo internally questions an absurd suggestion, resolving to go somewhere even without permission. In another time, a surprised Leo looks at a pouch of coins spilled by a campfire. In the quiet of the night, a man with a goatee stands over a seated Leo by the fire, holding a bowl in silence. The man with the goatee pours a red liquid from the bowl into the fire as an offering. Under the full moon, a silent thought offers thanks to a father. In a sunnier past, Leo sits with Lena overlooking a village, noting that even the mushroom picking is the same as last time. Chewing on a blade of grass, Leo anticipates an upcoming event involving Lena. Just as Lena starts to speak, Leo interrupts, saying he has something important to tell her. Lena turns to him with a look of confusion. With a charming smile, Leo asks Lena if she wants to go to Nevis with him. Surprised, Lena asks why, and Leo explains he's always wanted to visit the capital. As he mentions work opportunities there, a concerned Lena reminds him of his dream to become a hunter. He brushes off her concern, saying hunting can wait, which prompts her to ask what else is on his mind. Leo explains that the capital is closer to the Holy Kingdom, making it a hub for merchants traveling to Lutetia. When Lena questions how they will manage the long, dangerous journey, Leo rises with a thoughtful look. He turns back to her, confidently jingling a pouch of coins and proposing they use his savings. Shocked by the amount of money, Lena asks if he got it from their father. Leo grins, explaining he saved and borrowed the money before asking her to join him so he won't be lonely. He waits for her answer, a lone figure on the sunlit hill. With newfound determination, Lena firmly agrees to go with him. Overcome with emotion, a tearful Lena thanks Leo profusely for the opportunity. As they embrace under a large tree, Leo reflects that she was destined to leave their village regardless. The scene shifts to a peaceful, rustic village nestled in a clearing. An overhead view shows a small caravan of covered wagons traveling down a dirt path. A fellow traveler tells Leo he doesn't need to help push the cart, but Leo insists it's no trouble. Lena offers a drink to one of the cart pullers as a narration explains the caravan's routine trips to the market. A kind, gray-haired woman hands a water skin to a man, who gratefully accepts it. The merchant caravan makes camp for the night in a clearing surrounded by woods as the sun sets. As they depart from a camp, people wave and wish them a safe journey. On the road, Lena suggests they can camp outside, but Leo insists she deserves to sleep comfortably. He cheerfully explains this is what he saved for, urging a hesitant Lena to come along. A happy Lena walks arm in arm with Leo as they head toward an inn. A man watches them go with a look of disdain, muttering about who they are. Their destination is revealed to be a large, welcoming inn glowing in the sunset. The innkeeper shows them to a simple room with 2 beds and bids them good night. As the men leave, Lena's eyes sparkle with excitement at the sight of a real bed. She joyfully bounces on the bed, thrilled to be sleeping in one for the very first time. Lena worries they can't afford the room, but Leo reassures her he rented a single, cheap room for them. Pointing a finger, Lena playfully warns Leo not to try anything funny while they're sharing a room. Leo smiles warmly, agreeing immediately while thinking her cute threat is having the opposite effect. That night, both Leo and Lena are sound asleep in their separate beds. Lena lies awake in the dark, unable to sleep despite being tired. She sits up in her bed and looks across the room at Leo. She watches him as he sleeps soundly in the moonlight. A memory of Leo's smiling invitation to go to Nevis flashes through her mind. She recalls his kind explanation about the money and his plea for her to come with him. The memory of their emotional embrace under the tree fills her thoughts. Back in the present, Lena hugs her knees, silently thanking Leo for saving her from giving up. Noticing Leo tossing in his sleep, she quietly asks if he's all right. She moves closer to his bed, her expression filled with concern, as she wonders if he's having a nightmare. Watching him sleep, Lena thinks that if they hadn't taken this trip, she would have confessed her feelings to him. With a gentle, loving smile, she gazes at Leo's peaceful face in the moonlight. Leaning closer over his bed, she softly strokes his hair, her mind made up. Overcome with emotion, she gently kisses the sleeping Leo. As she kisses him, her eyes are open, a hint of uncertainty in her thoughts. Wah! Suddenly recoiling in a panic, a flustered Lena apologizes to Leo and someone named Vinar in her thoughts. Few relieved, she sees Leo is still fast asleep and lets out a quiet sigh. Back in her own bed, she clutches the blanket and silently apologizes to Leo again. In his sleep, Leo dreams of becoming a priest and promising to give her his very first blessing. The next morning, Leo gently shakes a sleeping Lena, telling her to wake up. Stretching with a smile, Lena sleepily asks Leo if he slept well. Leo confirms he's already washed up and tells her a towel and water are ready for her. Yawning, Lena agrees as Leo explains they will eat at the inn before leaving. Dressed in a traveler's cloak, Leo walks through the bustling morning market. A man calls out from a stall, asking Leo if he slept well. Leo turns to greet the man, who he now recognizes from the inn. The man, identified as Hans, approaches with a knowing look, commenting that Leo slept at the inn. Leo asks Hans if he's sold all his goods already, and Hans proudly confirms they sold quickly. When Leo asks if he has eaten, Hans replies that he is just about to. Leo cheerfully offers to join him, and while Hans agrees, Leo internally feels he has no reason to refuse. The two men walk together through the cobblestone streets of the market town. As Leo walks, Hans internally recalls rumors that Leo isn't working and is hiding somewhere. The scene abruptly shifts to a man with dark hair, smoking and grimacing as he types on a laptop late at night. Back in the game, Leo considers the rumors, thinking it's possible and not his place to judge, when Hans calls his name. Leo turns back with a questioning look as Hans asks if he can ask him something. Leo stops dead in his tracks, realizing with a start that this was Hans's motive for approaching him. He internally debates how the real Leo would react, with anger or by simply ignoring the insult. Pfoofed, haha. Leo laughs it off, claiming he just slept, prompting Hans to mock him for his apparent lack of action. Just as Hans starts to retort, Lena appears down the street, calling out Leo's name with a wave. When Leo asks if she's ready, Lena nods and asks if Hans is joining them, surprising Hans. Leo confirms they are eating together and smoothly puts an arm around Hans, leading him along. At a tavern, the three eat together when Leo is asked if they are heading to the Lord's castle. Hans points out their planned route is a long detour, questioning their direction. Leo explains they have to take the detour because they don't have a caravan, which someone else points out are absent. Hans scoffs, calling him clueless and explaining that a market this size is bound to have caravans. Leo's eyes light up with hope at the idea that caravans might be heading west. Hans offers to make an introduction, prompting an eager Leo to ask if he knows anyone. Hans confidently claims he's an expert navigator in the area, and Leo immediately asks if they can leave today. Extending a hand, Hans confidently tells them to trust him and follow his lead. Hans approaches a merchant caravan, warmly greeting the leader and asking how he's been. The merchant, a man with a large mustache smoking a pipe, confirms Hans's goods sold well. Hans introduces Leo and Lena as his friends who need to get to Nevis, asking if there's a way. The merchant explains he's not going directly there, but can introduce them to other caravans that are. He quotes a price of 5 silvers for the 2-week trip, citing the cargo space they would occupy. Hans haggles skillfully, asking the merchant to have the price for the kids, noting his 2-day stopover in the village. The merchant considers for a moment, then agrees with a smile, telling them he'll see them later. The trio watches as the merchant walks away to his waiting carts. Leo gratefully thanks Hans for saving them time and money, and Hans replies that Lena deserves to be comfortable. Lena thanks Hans sincerely, admitting to herself that her opinion of him is changing for the better. Hans laughs, brushing off their thanks as he stands with Leo and Lena in the town square. That night, their new caravan travels down a moonlit path through the woods. Lena dozes against Leo as they ride in the back of a covered wagon under the stars. Annoyed by the endless journey, Leo sighs internally, just as Lena calls his name. Lena turns to Leo, asking if they will really have to work for a year once they arrive. With a heavy heart, Leo quietly apologizes to Lena, unable to meet her gaze. He recalls his original plan. He thought Lena needed money for her trip to the Holy Kingdom, and that working for years in the capital would be her only. An image of a regally dressed Lena appears in his mind as he resolves that they are not going to the Holy Kingdom. She is meant to be a princess, not a priestess. Back in the present, a curious Lena asks him what kind of work she should look for. Leo suggests a bakery, mentioning Hans's aunt's praise, but Lena dismisses it, saying she can only make dough. He explains that bakeries pay well in the capital, and a skeptical Lena asks if it's true. A vision of a priest and an armored knight flashes through his mind, figures from a solemn past. Lena rests against Leo, lost in thought as their journey continues through the night. Thanks to a merchant lord's recommendation, they quickly found passage on another caravan, heading to Nevis the next day. Before leaving, Leo put Lena to bed at their lodging, and then snuck out to buy something important. At a blacksmith's forge, the muscular smith asks Leo if he has a permit for the sword he wants. Looking up from the ground floor, Leo admits he doesn't have one and asks if there's any other way. Leo desperately explains that he has someone he needs to protect, pleading for the smith to make an exception. The blacksmith eyes him suspiciously, asking if he's a gangster, which Leo quickly denies. Pointing out the marking on Leo's arm, the blacksmith questions if it's not a clan tattoo. Leo explains his father, who has the same tattoo, gave it to him, prompting the smith to ask about his father's profession. Upon hearing his father is a hunter, the smith taps a shield and confirms one last time that Leo isn't a gangster. Convinced, the blacksmith motions for Leo to follow him into the workshop. Standing before a rack of weapons, the blacksmith tells a surprised Leo to pick one. Leo notes they're all one-handed swords, which makes the blacksmith laugh, now certain Leo isn't a gangster. As Leo insists he's not, the still skeptical blacksmith tells him to wait for a moment. The blacksmith returns and unveils 3 swords laid out on a white cloth for Leo to choose from. After picking one up for a test swing, Leo realizes with disappointment that all the swords are unbalanced. The blacksmith bursts out laughing, admitting he's a shield maker who made the swords for fun and will sell them cheap. Gazing at his weary reflection in the blade, Leo reluctantly agrees to buy it, glad to at least have something. Back in their room, Leo enters carrying a small barrel, and Lena asks where he went. He triumphantly sets down the barrel, announcing he brought beer and noting they could never drink back in the village. A worried Lena asks if it's okay, fearing they'll get in trouble, but Leo coolly asks, "With whom?" Blushing slightly, Lena nervously mentions Vinar as a possibility. Leo simply offers her a warm, knowing smile. He pours them 2 mugs, justifying it as practice for her future as a priest, which Lena concedes is true. Leo continues, suggesting Vinar will understand, since she will be a priest one day too. Lena blushes deeply, as Leo reminds her she'll be of age in just a few months. With a charming, slightly strained smile, Leo encourages her to just try a little. Her eyes light up with delight after her first sip, exclaiming that it tastes amazing. Now slightly tipsy, Lena tells Leo the drink is making her dizzy, and he quips that's part of its charm. Leo smirks, thinking to himself that if she gets drunk, he can finally dig into her past. He starts reminiscing, and a giggling Lena recalls a time he got in trouble for bringing a kokorin home. "When you saved me." A flashback shows Leo pulling a younger Lena from the water as she remembers thinking how cool he was. Leo then reminds her of the time they accidentally rang the church bell, making the whole village think there was a fire. As Lena happily reflects on their many fun memories, Leo internally notes that the more he learns, the more he feels like the real Leo. A blushing Lena asks why he's being so nice to her, while he thinks to himself, "Because I'm not Leo." Unaware of his dark thoughts, Lena beams at him with a happy, trusting smile. Suddenly standing, a drunken Lena declares she won't just become a priest, but the priest, asking what he'll do without her help. Flustered as Leo carries her, Lena asks what he's doing, and he cheekily replies that she can at least give him a blessing. After putting her to bed, Leo internally affirms that keeping his distance is best for Lena, who protests that she's going to be a priest. Drifting off to sleep with a blush, Lena mumbles for him to move aside. Leo crosses his arms with a sly smile, deciding he should only drink with her on rare occasions. Their merchant guide leads Leo and Lena through an alley, announcing that they have arrived at their destination. The merchant explains that while Nevis is expensive, his friend runs this place and will treat them well. A thin innkeeper greets the merchant warmly, joking that he almost forgot about him since he never visits. The merchant gestures to Leo and Lena, asking the innkeeper to give them a room. The innkeeper explains that while he has a room for 2, he's unexpectedly full and can't house the whole merchant group. The merchant clarifies he only needs a room for his friends, asking for a discount on their behalf. Leo cleverly negotiates, suggesting they'll start with 1 night but might stay longer if they receive a discount. Convinced they might be long-term guests, the innkeeper agrees to show them to a good room and leads them up the stairs. The innkeeper pauses on the staircase, turning back to the merchant with a knowing look. With a sinister smile, the innkeeper tells the merchant to wait, promising to get him the thing he was promised last time. Lena gasps in awe as they are shown into a surprisingly spacious and well-furnished room. The room is decorated with elegant chairs and a table, a stark contrast to their previous lodging. The innkeeper explains he's given them the nice room as a favor to his friend, and Lena smiles happily. Leo is stunned when the innkeeper quotes the price, a steep 3 silver coins. Laughing nervously, Leo quickly pretends the price is no issue and agrees to pay. The innkeeper thanks him for his business and promptly takes his leave, closing the door behind him. Lena excitedly praises the room for being nice and cheap, and Leo agrees it's a good deal for its location and quality. At Lena's eager question, Leo confirms they will stay here permanently unless their future work is too far away. Lena throws open the window with a clatter, exclaiming that the view is amazing. Leaning out the window, Lena happily waves and shouts a thank you to the merchant, who waves back from the street below. As Leo gathers his things, Lena wonders if they'll see the kind merchant again, and he philosophically replies that they will if fate allows. Outside, Lena points in amazement at a massive castle dominating the city skyline. As they walk through the bustling streets, Lena marvels at the lively atmosphere, while Leo internally compares it to a game scenario. A crowd gathers ahead, and Lena pulls on Leo's arm, asking what's going on. They witness a slave auction where a young man from a swamp tribe is presented as extremely healthy, with a starting bid of 10 silver coins. As the bidding quickly escalates to 20 coins, Lena looks on in horror while Leo's expression darkens. Leo recalls a bloody scene from the game's betrothal scenario, recognizing the tribe as barbarians from the central and southern kingdoms. He realizes that in this scenario, the only suitors worthy of Lena would be princes or high-ranking sponsors from the Holy Kingdom. Visibly disturbed, Lena tugs on Leo's sleeve, telling him she can't bear to watch the auction any longer. Leo suggests they head into the castle to look for work, and Lena quietly agrees. Just as they approach the gate, a guard suddenly calls out, and a surprised Leo asks if he's being addressed. The guard points directly at the sword hanging from Leo's belt, his gaze questioning. Another guard approaches, noting the weapon doesn't look like a knight's sword, and asking if Leo is a hired mercenary. Startled, Leo quickly holds up his hands and denies being a mercenary. The guard scolds him for trying to enter the castle with a weapon, telling him he should have at least tried to hide it. Leo apologizes profusely, explaining he just arrived in Nevis to find a job and was unaware of the rule. The guard demands to inspect the sword, and Leo internally resigns himself, knowing it's best not to antagonize the guards. Laughing awkwardly, Leo claims he bought the cheap sword for self-defense as the guard asks where he acquired it. After a quick inspection, the guard declares the sword is completely defective, and his partner asks to see the shoddy weapon. The second guard confirms the sword is poorly balanced with all the weight at the tip and asks if Leo wants it back. The guard decides the weapon isn't worth confiscating, but strictly forbids him from bringing it inside the castle. Leo gratefully agrees to be careful, but the guard stops him again, his eyes fixed on Leo's arm. The guard's face hardens with suspicion as he points at the marking on Leo's arm, accusing him of being a gangster. Holding his arm, Leo calmly explains that the tattoo is something his father gave him. Lena quickly steps in to support his story, confirming that he's had the tattoo since he was a child. The second guard convinces his skeptical partner to let them go, reasoning that no gangster would be foolish enough to carry such a horribly balanced sword. After the incident with the guards, Lena gives Leo a silent, unimpressed stare. Sighing, Lena chides Leo, revealing she was watching, and that his clumsy sword swinging is all for show. She continues her critique, questioning his choice of a defective sword and wondering if she was a fool to be touched by his promise of protection. Leo defensively insists he knows how to use a sword, but Lena just laughs, affectionately calling him a silly hunter. Now standing before a bakery, Lena happily expresses her eagerness to help with the dough. Inside, an older woman offers Lena a trial run for the next day, wanting to assess her work before setting a wage. Lena eagerly accepts the job, and the woman praises her as a brave girl, telling her she will see her tomorrow. As they leave, Leo asks if her job search was successful, and she gives him a cheerful confirmation. When Leo asks about her pay, Lena explains that the owner will decide after seeing her work tomorrow. Lena confidently defends her decision, stating she has a good eye for people and that the bakery owner seemed nice. Leo playfully teases that the woman must be like Hans's aunt, causing a flustered Lena to blush and shout that she isn't. At a forge, a blacksmith asks Leo about his work experience, and he replies that he only assisted his father with various tasks. The impressed blacksmith offers him a generous wage and asks when he can start, but Leo deflects, saying he'll consider it before leading Lena away. Leo and Lena continue their walk through the quiet cobblestone streets of the town, looking up at him, Lena asks if they will be staying at the same inn as before. Leo confirms with a smile that they will, and a pleased Lena agrees. With Lena's employment secured, Leo internally resolves that he can now begin his true mission, finding clues about the prince. Leo thinks about his plan to use his father's money, passing it off as his salary from a distant bakery so Lena won't suspect anything. As they walk, Lena suddenly stops and looks back with a confused, "Huh?" Leo explains that the area looked the same when he first arrived, guessing that rain-damaged wood was recently removed. They enter their inn, only to find the common room filled with intimidating, armed men. The thin innkeeper from before welcomes them with a knowing smile, stating that he's been waiting for them. As Leo says they're heading up to rest, he internally notes that the atmosphere in the room feels strangely tense. He observes the patrons openly handling an axe and a dagger, making him wonder if they are mercenaries. Leo and Lena share a look of dawning realization and surprise. Their path is suddenly blocked by a large, menacing man carrying a heavy wooden shield as he stomps up the stairs. Xing Leo draws his sword in a flash, yelling for Lena to get back. With his sword drawn, Leo stands ready for a fight, as Lena watches in shock. The duo finds themselves surrounded by armed thugs, trapping them in the inn's common room. Shielding Lena, Leo confronts the thugs, warning them to step back even though he doesn't understand the situation. An attacker mocks his defiance, sneering that Leo is the one who will be sold soon. Leo's face darkens as the terrifying truth of their situation dawns on him. His mind flashes back to the slave auction, realizing with horror that they have been led into a trap to be sold. A dark-haired man lunges, and their blades clash in a burst of violent red energy. The attacker smirks at Leo's skill, but a sweating Leo warns him to back off, promising he won't go easy next time. The man who appears to be the leader orders his men to beat Leo up, but keep him alive. As one thug rushes Leo, another grabs Lena from behind. Leo is forced to defend himself on two fronts, parrying a sword strike, while another man attacks him from the side. Leo expertly blocks a sword with one hand and delivers a powerful kick with his foot, sending an attacker flying. He swiftly dodges a crushing axe blow from one man, while another hooded figure moves in. With a spinning kick, Leo slams his foot into the axeman's chest, sending him reeling back with a burst of light. Two remaining thugs look on in disbelief at Leo's unexpected fighting prowess. Panting heavily, Leo glares at the men, angrily stating that this ambush isn't what they agreed on. The leader slams the table, confronting the innkeeper for claiming Leo was just a simple hunter from a rural village. Holding his bloodied sword, Leo realizes he's outnumbered as more men with shields advance, forcing him to find another way out. Arg, with a furious battle cry, Leo charges forward, his sword crashing against the advancing shields. He follows up with a powerful kick, breaking their formation and sending the shield bearers staggering backward. Seeing a momentary opening, Leo urgently shouts for Lena to follow him quickly. A thrown dagger, suddenly pierces Leo's side, and he cries out in agony as blood spurts from the wound. Kneeling in pain, Leo pulls the dagger from his leg, cursing his predicament. From the top of the stairs, Lena desperately screams for Leo to run as a thug, with a shield blocks his path. A bald thug brings a club crashing down, and Leo barely manages to block the blow with his sword. Lena screams, no, her face a mask of pure terror as she watches the brutal attack. Overwhelmed, Leo falls to his knees while the thugs, including the dark-haired leader, close in on him. Lena screams his name as Leo is slammed face first into the wooden floor. The dark-haired man sends Leo flying across the room with a vicious kick to the chest. A massive thug grabs Lena from behind, and she struggles desperately, shouting for him to let her go. Seeing Lena captured, a bloodied Leo screams her name, his eyes burning with helpless fury. As the man with the ponytail lunges with a sword, Leo manages to parry the attack. A faint light envelops Leo as he rises to face the large, bald attacker. With a brutal downward swing, the thug smashes his club against Leo's sword. The force shatters Leo's blade, sending a sharp fragment tearing into his shoulder. Still struggling in her captor's grasp, Lena cries out Leo's name while demanding to be released. The bald thug tightens his grip, angrily telling Lena to stay still as he pins her to the ground. The leader in the hat points and warns his men to be careful not to damage the goods for the auction. Holding a broken blade to Leo's throat, a thug complains about the effort, as Leo hears the word goods with dawning horror. The grim realization hits him. They plan to sell Lena, and a vision of him fighting furiously flashes through his mind. Standing over a fallen foe in a blood-splattered room, Leo holds a glowing sword, his expression cold and resolute. His hand trembling, a bloodied Leo covers his face and whispers Lena's name in anguish. With a look of terrifying determination, Leo vows to kill every last one of them if they don't release Lena. A system window announces his achievement for first kill, stating he will now feel less guilt when murdering. Gulp. The leader and his subordinate stare in stunned silence, unnerved by Leo's sudden transformation. The remaining thugs brace themselves, sensing the fight is far from over. Haya, with a furious battle cry, Leo becomes a blur of motion, charging directly at his enemies. In a flurry of motion, Leo leaps and parries multiple strikes, his blood-soaked face set in a grim snarl. A blonde-haired thug wielding a dagger smirks confidently, seemingly unimpressed by Leo's assault. Tisk, Leo glares back with utter contempt, blood splattered across his determined face. Leo evades a punch and counters with a powerful kick, sending a thug flying backward with a flash of light. Wielding a sword in each hand, Leo expertly deflects the simultaneous attacks of two more thugs. The leader smirks, ordering his men to kill Leo carefully, and they eagerly agree. Barely holding on, a wounded Leo kneels, realizing he can only just avoid fatal blows using his swordsmanship skill. Trembling with exhaustion, he thinks that it's becoming difficult to even hold his sword. Defeated, Lena pleads with her captors to spare Leo, promising she'll do whatever they say. Intrigued, the leader considers her offer, while a horrified Leo screams for her not to do it. Leader orders the hooded man to disarm Leo, but keep him alive. Hiya! The hooded man attacks, and Leo meets his blade with a desperate cry. Uglio grits his teeth, his hands shaking as he struggles to hold his ground against the man's strength. An axeman seizes the opportunity, swinging his weapon at Leo's exposed side. The axe blow sends Leo's sword flying from his grasp, leaving him disarmed and collapsing onto the floor. The thugs menacingly surround the fallen and helpless Leo. Gar! Pinned to the ground, Leo cries out in agony as the blonde thug viciously stabs him in the chest. The leader approaches Lena and asks her to confirm her offer, and she tearfully agrees. His hand gently caresses her tear-stained cheek as she trembles. The leader smiles, satisfied, stating that while there is no time for proper training, she will suffice. Muffled by a hand, Leo watches helplessly from the floor, screaming in silent protest. The leader places a hand on Lena's shoulder as she looks back at Leo, crying his name one last time. Fed up with the noise, the leader orders his men to knock him out as Leo reaches a futile hand toward a departing Lena. Ugh, Leo groans, waking up bound in a stable, confused about his whereabouts. The memory of Lena being taken away flashes in his mind, and he frantically struggles, desperate to know where she is. Bound and bleeding, the brown-haired Leo screams in anguish, wondering where it all went wrong. In another time, a man in a cap leads Leo and a cloaked woman down an alley, announcing their arrival. Returned to his grim present, the captive Leo weakly calls out for Lena. 3 men appear, their leader in the cap asking if Leo is awake. Ignoring them, Leo desperately demands to know where Lena is, but his captor mockingly suggests he's still dazed. The leader calmly orders his men to take Leo away, and they respond in affirmation, sighing that he's a real pain. The leader watches as his men drag the captured Leo from the building. Thud. Leo is violently thrown onto the floor of a covered wagon. The man in the cap reveals Lena was sold to the prince, and that they've been ordered to deliver Leo as well. A system window declares Lena's final occupation as decided, as Leo lies defeated and weeping. A gleaming portrait of the blonde-haired Lena appears, her face being gently caressed. The game screen displays the childhood friend ending, naming Lena as the prince's concubine and Leo as an assassin. Kneeling in a spotlight, Leo looks at the portrait in despair, realizing Lena has become the prince's plaything. Story summaries detail their tragic fates. Lena took her own life after helping Leo escape, and Leo was executed after a failed assassination attempt. Floating in a golden void, a modern-looking man begs to stop, wanting to quit everything. A dark-haired woman in modern clothes cradles him, softly saying the name, Chaeha. Chaya cries out that it's been over a year and pleads to be allowed to go back. The scene shifts to a snowy field where a dark-haired man asks a sword-wielding Leo what's wrong. A silver-haired woman calls out to Leo, a ghostly image of her past, beaten self flashing behind her. Her wooden sword falls from her grasp into the snow as her thought trails off, The dark-haired man watches her walk away, calling Leo's name, remembering his own desperate longing to see her. A notification reveals Leo's past naivete, explaining he wiped out a family for Lena's revenge, earning information on the underworld. He recalls the grim truth. The lodging they stayed at had a hidden mark, targeting them to be sold into slavery. Leaning against the building in the snow, he laments that they unknowingly paid to be trapped. Snow falls gently on the rooftops of the quiet village. The silver-haired woman calls a halt to their training, noting with a relieved breath that she adapted quickly this time. She remarks that Leo has changed, but he simply stands in thoughtful silence. She critiques his swordsmanship, questioning his recent flawed approach. The dark-haired man internally credits his improved skills to training with Lena before her death, recognizing a missed opportunity in their spar. He foresees the doomed timeline where Lena dies hunting while their father goes to war, as she falls defeated in the snow. He remembers a younger, blonde-haired Lena in armor, confidently promising to return as a knight. With determined eyes, he thinks that even knowing war is coming won't stop him. The silver-haired woman sits up from the ground, looking at him with a puzzled expression. He extends a hand towards her, unexpectedly telling her to get down too. Whoa! He yanks her hand, pulling her off balance with a surprised yelp. His gloved hand gently intertwines with hers in the snow. They lie side by side in the snow, holding hands, their practiced swords resting nearby. Lying next to the silent man, the silver-haired woman breaks into a bright, cheerful laugh. A faint blush appears on his face as he looks at her, thinking to himself that she's cute. Roar! A massive white wolf snarls ferociously as he resolves that to hunt the shapeshifter fox, they must go to the battlefield together. The silver-haired woman lies peacefully in the snow, her eyes closed. In a training yard, the dark-haired man, now clad in armor, silently prepares to practice with his sword. He unleashes a flurry of swift and precise slashes against a training post. A section of the wooden post is cleanly sliced off, falling to the snowy ground. The silver-haired Lena greets him, gently chiding him for overworking himself at dawn. Removing his helmet with a sigh, he tells her not to worry. Badump. Lena's heart flutters as she gazes at him, a blush warming her cheeks. She rests her head on his shoulder, fondly recalling how he was such a nerd when they first met. A flashback begins, showing a scene from 3 years ago where a younger Leo and Lena are introduced to 2 older men. A smiling, brown-haired man introduces himself as Noel Dexter, while Leo stands beside him silently. Lena looks on with her arms crossed, her expression a mixture of suspicion and disapproval. Smiling peacefully, Lena reminisces about a time when she never imagined she and Leo would be engaged. In a flashback, an ecstatic Lena announces they finally have a chance to become knights, which Leo had been about to tell her. The memory continues as Leo recalls his father giving them permission to join the hunt. Flashes of the hunt show a large, bloodied white wolf lying defeated in the snow. A white-haired hunt leader frantically orders his men to pull on their ropes and throw whatever they can at their target. The massive white wolf is successfully ensnared by numerous ropes as archers take aim from above. A white-haired warrior leaps through the air, hurling 2 axes with deadly precision. Kayak! An axe sinks deep into the wolf's neck, drawing a spray of blood. Standing back-to-back with Leo, Lena rallies the hunters, shouting for them to keep attacking without fear. Leo narrates how events unfolded just as they had before. Lena found the shapeshifter fox's tracks, he reported it, and the hunt leader Dehorman gathered the team. Overwhelmed by a volley of arrows, the wounded white wolf finally stumbles and falls. Har! The hunters strain to hold the massive, thrashing wolf with a harpoon line. 2 hunters grit their teeth, putting all of their combined strength into pulling the rope taut. Despite its many wounds, the wolf glares back with furious, glowing blue eyes, snarling in defiance. Ah! The beast surges with power, snapping the ropes and sending the hunters flying. The massive wolf closes in on the fleeing hunters as a desperate voice screams for them to dodge. A terrified hunter can only watch as a white blur slams into his comrade. Realizing the creature's true nature, Dehorman bellows at his men to scatter, identifying it as the shapeshifter fox. With grim resolve, Dehorman grips his axe, declaring that he will face the monster alone. Dehorman squares off against the wounded but still ferocious shapeshifter fox in a tense standoff. Man and beast charge forward simultaneously, their battle erupting in a violent clash. The axe finds its mark, and the wolf recoils from the brutal blow. Half cloaked in shadow, Dehorman's eye glows with power as he poises for his next strike. Dehorman swiftly crosses his axes in a defensive posture, bracing for an incoming attack. Riddled with arrows and bleeding heavily, the shapeshifter fox struggles to remain standing. Seeing an opening, Dehorman roars for the final volley, and a hail of projectiles flies toward the weakened beast. Grr. Finally defeated, the shapeshifter fox collapses into a pool of its own blood, letting out one last growl. Standing over the corpse, Dehorman explains that dying demonic beasts always unleash their most familiar attacks in their last moments. He tightens his grip on his axe, his thoughts trailing off as he analyzes the fox's final moments. In a last desperate surge, the dying wolf rears back and unleashes a final agonizing roar. The beast hurls its body through the air in a final all-or-nothing lunge at Dehorman. Dehorman's eyes widen as he swings his massive axe to intercept the creature's desperate charge. In a flash of motion, Dehorman's axe swings in a deadly arc, ending the fight in a spray of blood. The battle is over. The creature's severed head lies in the snow beside the blood-soaked axe. Standing victorious over his kill, Dehorman lets out a hearty and triumphant laugh. A joyful Lena leaps onto her father's back, cheering that he's the best as Leo and the other hunters look on. Back in the present, a somber Leo stares into the distance, wondering if Lena's participation in the war is truly inevitable. From outside a room, Leo calls out to his father. Leo stands before his father, who is reading, and declares that he wishes to join the war as well. His father looks up from his book, calmly regarding his son. Leo stands firm and silent, awaiting his father's judgment. To Leo's surprise, his father simply tells him to go ahead, though he privately thinks it wouldn't have mattered if Leo said no. A relieved Leo thanks his father, internally noting how different his reaction is from the last time. Wondering if his diligent training is the cause, Leo announces he's going to train with Lena. Just as Leo turns to leave, his father's voice stops him in his tracks. His expression now serious, Leo's father asks him if he truly understands how military troops function. A memory surfaces of his father explaining military strategy and unit roles over a large map. The lesson concludes, this world's military uses small 10-man guerrilla units to avoid being wiped out by wizards' concentrated bombardments. A man's hands smooth over a map as he addresses his father. His dark-haired father looks weary, telling his son he's tired of killing and doesn't want to join the war. The father elaborates that he would fight to defend his kingdom, but this war is a different story. The son reminds his father about the 9-Day War, the very conflict where he earned his title. His father recalls being appointed the youngest knight, remembering his youthful excitement for battle. A historical account begins, explaining a civil war that erupted after the young king of Aster died mysteriously. With no clear successor, 2 of the late king's brothers emerged to claim the throne. The brothers' rivalry sparked the fiercest and bloodiest war in the continent's history. Known as the 9-Day War, the conflict raged for 3 years until both brothers were assassinated by their own sons. The sons then made a pact, and their handshake established the new kingdom of Aster in the north. Back in his study, the father reflects on his past, thinking that it was all foolish. His dark-haired son stands before him, listening in silence. The scene shifts to a blonde-haired woman with glasses, who asks if someone is coming with her. She questions the dark-haired man, now identified as the son, why he's following her to war, insisting he should stay. Turning back with a playful smile, she teases that if he died, she would be left a widow. The dark-haired man bursts into hearty laughter. He retorts that she should be careful, or he might become a widower instead. Surprised, she asks if he would truly remain single for the rest of his life if she died. He cryptically replies that it depends on her behavior before declaring he'll have to. Teach her a lesson as he lunges forward with his wooden sword. She meets his charge with a fierce grin, shouting that he was supposed to promise to stay single forever. As their wooden swords clash, she states that they can't avoid the war, while he silently vows to ensure their survival. During their intense spar, he thinks he'll make sure they both return alive this time. As they continue to fight, he thinks that he refuses to let Lena die alone like she did before. Crack. The woman's wooden sword shatters from the force of his blow. She is thrown off balance as the broken piece of her sword flies through the air. He stands victorious with his wooden sword pointed at her throat, ending their duel. She asks what he's thinking about, warning him that losing focus during a real war will get him killed. He simply smiles, cryptically thinking about everything else. Sometime later, the scene shifts to a military encampment at dusk. At the camp, Lena groans as she tends to her sore feet, having been deployed with the army. She complains that she's dying of exhaustion as Leo approaches, telling her not to drag her feet. As Leo arrives, carrying a wooden bucket, a voice off-screen calls his name. He kneels before Lena, asking for her foot, much to her confusion. Leo gently soaks her foot in the water, explaining it will help her blister heal without popping it. Touched by his gesture, a blushing Lena wonders how he knew she was in pain. Leo looks at her with deep understanding, confidently stating, "I know everything." Feeling refreshed, Lena stretches her arms and asks Leo how he's not tired. Recalling his modern military service, he credits his endurance to past training and explains how to avoid blisters. He gently pats her head with an affectionate gesture. Leo smiles warmly and tells her he's going to set up their tent. Outside the tent, he lets out a weary sigh, the day's fatigue finally catching up to him. Lying down inside, Leo reflects on how incredibly long the day felt. He is startled as Lena suddenly enters the tent. She lies down beside him with a sly smile, asking if this makes them feel like a married couple. Leo thinks that a tent isn't his ideal home, but wonders if it would be too much for newlyweds. They share a tender, intimate moment, gazing into each other's eyes. Blushing, Lena looks at him intently, a silent question in her eyes. Caught off guard by the romantic tension, Leo blushes deeply in response. Lena closes her eyes and leans in, her hand gently reaching for his face. "Och?" A fist connects squarely with the blonde man's face. Now pinning the dark-haired man, the blonde man blushes and playfully asks if he really wants their first time to be while they're filthy. Still blushing, the blonde man suggests they just sleep, then teases the dark-haired man about being too weak to handle him in marriage. Shocked, the two men freeze as their comrades shout from outside, asking if they're on a honeymoon and questioning why they get a private tent. The dark-haired and blonde men burst out laughing, realizing everyone can hear their antics. The scene shifts to a grim battle, narrated as a time of emotional scars and daily death. Looking at his own reflection, the dark-haired man confidently thinks that handling soldiers is easy for him now. As they patrol a forest, a soldier spots movement ahead and shouts that there are knights nearby. Crouching in the underbrush, a red-haired woman and a brown-haired man are startled as she curses that they've been spotted. The two knights find themselves surrounded by a squad of soldiers. The brown-haired knight nervously asks what to do, but the red-haired woman coolly asks what he means. Sma. With a wild cry, one of the soldiers charges forward to attack. The red-haired woman moves in a blur, effortlessly cutting down several soldiers in a single sweeping strike. She smirks, calling out to Daros that mere soldiers are no match for them. The brown-haired knight, Daras, affirms her confidence, declaring that they are knights. A soldier lunges at Daros, who calmly parries the incoming sword strike. Daros swiftly dispatches another soldier with a clean strike from his sword. He deflects an enemy's blade with a powerful glowing arc of his own. Having defeated the soldiers, Daros turns his attention to the dark-haired man and his blonde companion, who look on in shock. The dark-haired man and the blonde man exchange a determined glance, readying for a fight. They both lunge forward, launching their weapons like spears directly at Daros. Daros's eyes widen in surprise at the coordinated assault. He twists his body, deftly dodging the incoming attacks from both sides. The red-haired woman, standing over fallen soldiers, scolds Daros for struggling against only 5 opponents. Daros yells back, addressing her as Senior Katrina and insisting their foes are no joke. The dark-haired man freezes, the name Katrina sparking a dreadful realization as he thinks, "Don't tell me." A tear streams down his face as he recalls the name, thinking it's one he'll never forget. His eyes burn with red fury as he realizes he's facing Lena's enemy. Enraged, the dark-haired man charges at Daros with murderous intent. He leaps into the air, bringing his sword down in a powerful, energy-infused strike. The blonde man rushes in to support the attack, closing in on Daros. Daros grits his teeth, surprised by the force as he blocks a glowing blue slash. The blonde warrior prepares her next move as Daros leaps toward her, sword at the ready. A dirt-stained Daros rallies his forces, shouting for them to charge. Wah! The battlefield erupts into a chaotic brawl between the two groups of fighters. Katrina clicks her tongue in frustration, her blood-splattered sword held at the ready. She screams at Dross to stop joking around, but he shouts back from the fight that he's serious. In a momentary lull, the dark-haired man stares down Daros, who prepares for the next move. Har! The dark-haired man lets out a battle cry and rushes towards a kneeling Daros. Daros deflects the initial strike as the dark-haired man signals for a follow-up, shouting, "Now!" The dark-haired man unleashes a devastating glowing slash at the off-balanced Daros. Daros desperately parries multiple strikes as the blonde warrior watches for an opening. The blonde warrior seizes the opportunity, landing a critical blow on Daros' side. The force of the strike sends Daros flying backward, a spray of blood erupting from his neck. Daros chokes in pain, clutching the fatal wound on his collarbone. The dark-haired man closes in, his sword raised to deliver the finishing blow to the stunned Daros. With grim determination, he drives his sword deep into the fallen knight's chest. Breathing heavily, he stands over Daros' body as a blue achievement window materializes. The window confirms his achievement, one knight, granting him more power when facing knights. Leaning on his sword, the dark-haired man reflects that knights are on another level, admitting it took 5 of them to barely take one down. Kuak. Amidst fallen soldiers, a red-haired woman in armor fends off multiple attackers with a powerful sword swing. Her red eyes narrow in suspicion and concern as she thinks of someone named Daros. Lying bloodied and defeated on the forest floor, a man named Daros is mourned with a desperate cry. The red-haired woman stands silently over the battlefield, her eyes glowing with cold fury. With a powerful leap, she dives back into the fray, her sword trailing dark energy. Her glowing purple blade clashes violently against the sword of a man with a long ponytail. She sprints across the battlefield, closing the distance on 2 more enemy soldiers. Wreathed in purple energy, she carves a path through her shadowed foes with deadly grace. Standing victoriously over a slain enemy, she rests her blood-soaked sword on the ground, her face obscured by shadow. Leo and Lena arrive on the scene, and Leo calls out, asking if she is Katrina. Tying her hair back, she confirms her name is Katrina and questions how he knows it. Leo recalls that the time of Lena's death was around this period as they watch Katrina on the battlefield. Looking on with grim determination, Leo thinks about coming face to face with the person responsible for Lena's death. Katrina points her sword towards them, demanding to know if it was Leo or Lena who killed Daros. "It was me." Leo screams, his blade locking with Katrina's in a furious high-stakes duel. A narration explains that mana, a gift from the gods, is present everywhere in the world. Theoretically, anyone with enough time can absorb this mana and become an expert in its use. In reality, however, most people grow old and frail before they can master their potential. Thus, true power belongs to those with the innate physical talent to absorb mana quickly. As they fight, Katrina stares at Leo, realizing there is something different about this man. She assesses his swordsmanship as unimpressive, but notes his level of experience is immense, making her hand tremble. Leo settles into a low stance, his gaze fixed intently on his opponent. He unleashes a blindingly fast, glowing slash, his eyes blazing with power. Gritting her teeth, Katrina realizes there must have been a reason Daros lost, and fears she might die here. As Katrina retreats, Leo feels his strikes growing stronger, attributing it to a recent reward. Leo thinks that while she is a good soldier, time is not on her side. Enveloped in a sinister red and black aura, Katrina vows to fight with her full strength. She lunges forward with incredible speed, her blade aimed true, catching Leo by surprise. Their swords collide in a brilliant explosion of red light and raw power. Pushed back, Leo deflects a barrage of swirling energy blasts radiating from their clash. Spotting an opening, Leo prepares to counter as Katrina leaps through the air for another strike. Suddenly, Lena intercepts the attack, her blade clashing with Katrina's to protect Leo. With a fierce expression, Lena holds her ground, pushing back against Katrina's powerful assault. Leo looks on in shock at Lena's unexpected and decisive intervention. Determined to recover Daros' body, Katrina finds herself fighting both Leo and Lena at once. The clearing erupts in a chaotic whirlwind of glowing slashes as the 3 warriors battle fiercely. Straining against the combined assault, Katrina grits her teeth, struggling to defend herself. In a flash of movement, a white-haired youth joins the fray, clashing his blade against Katrina's. Smirking, Katrina observes that the woman, Lena, seems to be the weaker of her opponents. Focusing her attack, Katrina expertly deflects Lena's strike while delivering a kick. Overpowering her opponent, Katrina breaks through Lena's defense in a flurry of motion. With a brutal thrust, Katrina's sword impales Lena, who looks down in bloodied shock. Katrina cries out, her face contorted in pain as blood splatters across her cheek. Having seized the opening, Leo viciously stabs Katrina from behind while she is distracted. "Lena, hurry," Leo screams, holding back the wounded Katrina as Lena stumbles away. In a spray of blood, the life fades from Lena's eyes as she collapses to the ground. Ko'ei's gloved hand trembles, struggling to hold a bloodied blade. Leo rushes to Lena's side as she weakly calls his name, both of them battered and exhausted. With blood on her lips and tears in her eyes, Lena smiles and whispers that they are now knights. Her strength finally gone, Lena collapses limply into Leo's arms. 2 weeks later, the scene shifts to a bustling military encampment nestled in a forested valley. In a quiet moment at the camp, Leo and a somber, white-haired Lena stand in thoughtful silence. Leo reflects on their situation, realizing that due to the cross-church's opposition, they have no priests to heal their wounds. Lena notices his concern is misplaced, pointing out that, of all things, he's worried about his injured thumb. He turns to her, asking if she's all right, and noting that she's still thinking of others at a time like this. Lena offers a gentle smile, assuring him that she is feeling much better now. Leo remains silent, his bandaged hand resting on his knee as he sits on a wooden crate. Lena informs him that the prince is coming, and Leo replies that the news is good. With a serious gaze, Lena asks if he plans on returning home now. She reveals that she has been requested to return home, catching a surprised Leo off guard. With a wistful and distant look, Lena softly thinks to herself that she wants to go home too. The image lingers on her longing expression, framed by soft, ethereal flowers. An injured soldier with his arm in a sling approaches, calling out to Leo and Lena. He informs the pair that they have been summoned by the administrative officer. Leo and Lena enter a large tent, standing at attention before a long desk. The administrative officer, an older man with a mustache, asks if they've heard about the prince's impending arrival. He announces that after the parade, he is recommending both of them for an award. While Leo smiles and thanks him, Lena looks on with a cool, unimpressed expression. The officer delivers a caveat. Only Leo will be allowed to go up on the stage. Leo reacts with shock as the officer explains that a soldier with a severed arm would negatively impact morale. Enraged, Leo slams the table, arguing that Lena was instrumental in their success and that he will refuse the award without her. Lena calmly tells him it's okay, but Leo yells her name in protest, unwilling to accept the decision. The officer acknowledges both of their achievements as Lena gently places a hand on Leo's shoulder to calm him. As the two turn to leave, the officer calls out Leo's name one last time. A royal fanfare of trumpets announces a grand occasion. A handsome, dark-haired man in a formal black cape with a red jewel clasp makes his regal appearance. The prince walks down a red carpet, passing rows of saluting soldiers. Dressed in new armor, Leo and Lena stand before the prince to receive their honors. A system notification pops up for Leo, announcing he has completed an achievement and gained favor with all princes. From a grand stage, the prince looks out over the assembled troops. He promises a substantial reward to all present as Lena gives Leo a gentle push forward from the crowd. With newfound resolve, Leo walks alone down the red carpet toward the stage. The prince greets him, naming him as the representative to be honored. As Leo kneels before him, the prince officially confers the title of honorary knighthood upon Leo Dexter. Woo! A roar of applause erupts from the crowd, celebrating the momentous occasion. From within the crowd, Lena watches with a soft, proud smile. At sunset, their duties concluded. Leo and Lena walk away from the camp with their belongings. A cheerful Lena muses that she might learn to cook when she returns, catching Leo by surprise. She shares her dream of opening a small shop that serves simple meals and drinks. Leo laughingly teases her, asking if she'll give out drinks but not food, but she confidently insists she'll do well. He playfully asks if he'll get his food for free, and she beams, immediately agreeing. She declares that everything is free for friends, which gives Leo a moment of pause. Laughing, Leo warns she'll be bankrupt in a month, but Lena playfully denies it. She boasts that her reward money is enough to let her fail twice, and they both laugh together under the evening sky. The golden light of sunset bathes the camp and the surrounding forest. Their journey leads them to a peaceful village as dusk settles. Walking through town, Lena, her left arm now visibly gone, turns and calls out to someone. A man and a woman, her parents, run towards her with expressions of shock and desperation. While Lena is enveloped in a tearful and emotional embrace by her grieving parents, Leo stands by, watching the reunion while speaking with Lena's father. Leo listens intently as Lena's father speaks to him with a calm, knowing expression. 8 months later, Lena's father places a reassuring hand on Leo's gloved one in a gesture of farewell. With a warm sunset as their backdrop, Leo and Lena's father share a heartfelt embrace. In a sunlit training yard, Lena calls out to Leo, getting his attention. Now missing her left arm, Lena brandishes a sword, wondering aloud if she can learn to fight one-handed. Leo smiles, encouragingly agreeing, and adding that he was also planning to practice with a one-handed sword and shield. Lena protests loudly at the mention of a shield, complaining it would be unfair, while Leo playfully suggests they try. Laughing, they agree to a fair spar with no shields, their hands touching over the sword's hilt. A confident smirk crosses Leo's face as he prepares for their friendly duel. Their spar begins as they face each other across the grassy training field. Ha! With a determined cry, Lena lunges forward to attack. Their swords meet in a powerful clash, erupting in a brilliant flash of golden energy. The two warriors become a blur of motion, exchanging a flurry of swift and skillful strikes. Leo's glowing blue blade is met by Lena's, the force of their parry sending sparks through the air. Pausing the fight, Leo calls out Lena's name with a look of concern. Lena's eyes are filled with fierce determination as she stares back at him. She channels her energy into a single, massive slash of brilliant golden light. Leo gracefully deflects the powerful blow with a sweeping, upward arc of his own blade. Exhaling, Leo rests his sword on his shoulder, a hint of a smile on his face. Huff-panting and trembling from exertion, Lena struggles to catch her breath after the intense spar. Leo looks at her with concern and admiration as he says her name. Tossing his sword aside, Leo walks resolutely toward her. Overwhelmed with emotion, Lena's eyes well up with tears as she looks at him. Holding her gently, Leo looks into her eyes and asks her to marry him. Sob, sob. Utterly speechless, Lena can only cry as he holds her. Suddenly, she shoves him away, turning her back on his proposal. As Lena walks away, Leo desperately pleads for her to answer him. He watches from a distance as she remains silent, her back still turned to him. With her face shadowed, Lena clenches her fist and quietly refuses his proposal. She spins around in a torrent of emotion, tearfully shouting at him to look at her. Anguished, she declares that she can't get married in her current state. As she runs away, she yells back that she doesn't want his pity. Catching up to her, Leo asks what she intends to do with a crippled fool like him, turning her own insecurity back on her. He pulls her into a fierce, loving embrace, surrounded by an aura of blooming pink flowers. Looking up at him with tear-filled eyes, Lena softly speaks his name. Surrounded by ethereal flowers, she whispers her true feelings. I love you. They share a passionate kiss, her tears of sorrow turning into tears of joy. A sudden notification chime sounds as a message appears. Thank you for playing Raising Lena. In a spotlight, a man in modern clothes watches in shock as a holographic Lena dissolves in his arms. Lena, he cries out in anguish as the last of her digital form vanishes before his eyes. A golden-framed image materializes, showing a happy future. Lena, Leo, and their 3 children together as a family. Leo watches the image with a bittersweet expression, thinking to himself that Lena is finally smiling. A game results screen appears, detailing Leo Dexter's achievements, and he feels relief that she lived happily this time. A summary card for Lena Einar details her story. Honored for her role in the war, she married Leo and lived a happy life with their 3 children. A similar card for Leo Dexter confirms his happy family life with Lena after the war. Floating in a golden void, Leo feels a sense of relief that he managed to achieve a happy ending. He reflects on his success, having secured a happy life for Lena, while also getting revenge on Katrina. Holding a translucent game reward screen, he feels a pang of guilt, thinking the reward should have gone to Lena. He concludes that despite his efforts, making Lena a princess is still beyond his abilities. His expression hardens with resolve as he thinks of the people he misses, his parents, and someone named Cheha. His digitized body floats in a golden beam of light as he thinks to himself, "Now, I." The scene shifts to a bleak memory of a young, blonde-haired boy and girl huddled together in a dark alley. Recognizing the alley, he recalls the girl, his sister, weakly telling him she was hungry and thirsty. The boy remains silent, clutching a small, meager pouch in his hand. Gently helping her up, he tells Lena it's time to go eat. A sepia-toned memory shows a bandaged boy holding a mug while a young Lena rests peacefully against him. Back in the present timeline, a blonde-haired Leo and Lena stand together in a medieval town, both silent. Lena looks worried, noting that there won't be any food left after dawn. An empty mug sits on a table as she wonders why they didn't get any water that day. Holding hands, the pair walks purposefully down a narrow cobblestone alley. They enter a bustling market filled with food, but Lena's expression shows she knows they can't afford any of it. "Ah!" she cries out as she is abruptly stopped, bumping into a large figure. A burly man in a red apron, holding a wooden bat, looms over them with a menacing aura. The man glares down at them, warning them to go home before they get hurt. Lena shows Leo a single coin, hopefully asking if it's enough to buy food. The man's demeanor instantly shifts to cheerful as he welcomes them as customers, but Lena insists they want to eat there. Leo opens his palm, revealing a few small coins as he asks if it's enough. "Haha," the man laughs, admitting he almost turned them away for their appearance, but invites them in. Inside a cozy restaurant, a wide-eyed Lena asks her brother where he got the money. He tells her he was saving it for an emergency, and she asks if it's the money he'd promised she could buy anything with. With sparkling eyes, she excitedly asks where he found it, declaring she wants to buy a house, leaving him speechless. Leo smiles, realizing he needs to earn money quickly while teaching Lena, and reflects on the difficulty of this scenario. The kind shopkeeper serves them a magnificent roasted bird on a platter. Wow! Both Leo and Lena stare at the feast, with mouths agape, their eyes wide with wonder. While they eat, Leo thinks about the game mechanics, noting that each scenario has rewards, like skills in hunting or swordsmanship. He mentally scrolls through his achievements, from his first kill to gaining favor with the princes. His expression hardens as he concludes that he isn't strong enough to protect Lena in his current state. With grim resolve, he decides to abandon the goal of a perfect clear and focus solely on achieving a happy ending. Sometime later, Leo and Lena cautiously peer around the corner of a stone building. Frustrated after another dead end, Leo sighs. Not here either, as Lena asks where they're going. He turns to her with a warm smile, telling her they're going to their house. Lena looks at him in confusion, reminding him that they already have a home. Patting her on the head, he gently clarifies that he's talking about a real house. He remembers a kind woman offering to pay to help them, believing her generosity means she will surely take them in. As they walk, a voice calls out, "Hey!" and the pair turns to see who it is. A group of men in ragged robes approaches them, their leader questioning why they're walking around alone. The hooded man smirks, accusing them of being selfish for eating well without sharing with the others. Leo defends their actions, stating they left as soon as the group arrived and didn't cause any harm. One of the men lunges at Leo in anger, but the leader calmly holds him back, telling him to control his temper. Confused, Leo asks them what rules they are supposedly breaking. Another man angrily shouts that beggars should stick together and not act superior. The leader diffuses the tension, saying newcomers can make mistakes, as Leo announces they are leaving anyway. When asked where they are going, Leo says they are looking for someone on a street that smells of oil and leather. One of the beggars recognizes the description, confirming it as Leather Street, where someone named Uncle Ober lives. The man provides directions using a simple map drawn on parchment. Leo thanks them and leads Lena away, while the leader warns them not to be lying. As they walk off, Leo thinks there's no point in fighting beggars, though it might unlock an achievement. The two continue their journey hand in hand through the town's stone-paved streets. Spotting a shield-shaped sign with a shoe emblem, Leo thinks with relief, found it. Inside, a dark-haired woman sits wearily at her work table, and Leo identifies her as the person who helped them. Cassia sits alone, her expression thoughtful as she wonders what a certain someone is doing. Her thoughts drift to a shoe shop, noting that the person in question isn't making or selling shoes. She observes the empty street outside the remote store, concluding it's never had a customer. Suddenly, a blonde-haired man and woman are startled just outside the shop's door. Cassia appears before them, sternly telling them to come inside instead of loitering. The blonde man cautiously enters the shop, the woman following closely behind him. Inside, Cassia turns away from them and asks what they would like to buy. She glances down at their worn-out footwear, correctly guessing that they need shoes. The blonde man and woman stand silently, holding hands, their faces weary. Cassia bluntly refuses to offer handouts, prompting the man to ask if they can stay for a few days. Insisting he can pay, the blonde man empties a small pouch of coins onto the counter. Cassia remains silent, looking down at the meager payment with an unimpressed expression. She dismisses the money, coldly suggesting they stole it and that she doesn't need it. Stating she is uninterested in caring for a child, the man desperately asks for water to wash the woman's face. Cassia begrudgingly agrees, gesturing towards a towel and water source in the back. She warns them not to make a mess as they walk away, and the man thinks it's just like last time. He gently helps the blonde woman, dipping a cloth into a wooden bucket of water. As the woman mumbles, Cassia sternly tells Lena to keep her mouth shut. The blonde man explains to Cassia that the woman is his sister. With her face clean, the man looks at Cassia with desperate eyes and asks again if they can stay. Cassia studies the now clean woman, noting how pretty she is and remarking that she seems obedient. She correctly surmises that the man wants to leave the child with her while he travels for work. The man quickly turns to the blonde woman, reassuring Lena that he is not leaving her. He explains that it's dangerous for Lena to wander alone and that he just needs a safe place for her to rest. He pleads for Cassia to let Lena stay, but she coldly asks why she should do that. The man brings his hands together in a prayer-like gesture, begging for her help. Cassia mockingly repeats his plea, thoughtfully considering his desperate request. She sits in contemplation, tapping her finger as she weighs her decision. The blonde man beams with relief, thanking Cassia profusely and promising to never forget her kindness. Cassia holds up one of his coins, agreeing but stating she's keeping the money and will ask for more later. She points them to where they can find food and explains that the water cart arrives in the morning. She introduces herself as Cassia, and the relieved man softly repeats her name. He thinks her name Cassia against a backdrop of soft blue flowers. The blonde man smiles brightly, thanking her once more with genuine gratitude. He introduces himself as Leo and his sister as Lena, asking Cassia to take care of them. Leo watches Cassia with a slightly puzzled expression. He wonders what she is staring at, concluding that she is a bit strange. Leo cheerfully carries a bucket of water through a doorway, calling for Lena to wash up. He calls out Lena's name in shock as she abruptly starts to disrobe in front of him. Lena ignores him, placing her neatly folded, patched clothes on the floor. Leo sighs in exasperation, telling her that's not what he meant. He turns to leave, telling her to wash up while he waits outside. Pausing with a troubled look, he thinks he needs to teach her, but realizes she needs a parent more. A memory of a more confident, knightly version of himself and a happy Lena appears, noting they are only a year apart. He reflects that one's environment truly makes all the difference. Peeking back inside the room, he asks if he can come in. He recoils from the doorway in disgust, shouting Lena's name in frustration. A cheerful Lena tells Leo it's his turn to wash up, but he just sighs her name in response. He tries to explain that it's embarrassing, but she looks at him innocently, stating that he isn't just others. She asks him to wait outside while she washes up now. As Lena happily runs off to wash, Leo watches her, looking slightly bemused. Alone, Leo rubs his neck, appearing stiff and weary. Later, he stands outside a doorway, tentatively asking if he can work there. He puts on a bright, serene smile, trying to make a good impression. He humbly admits that he's not very strong, but is eager to work. With determined fists, he earnestly promises that he will work really hard. Sometime later, he walks dejectedly down an alley, sighing that he's been rejected again. He pauses, his expression hardening with resolve. He recalls a previous scenario where his dexterity easily landed him a job at a tool shop. He sighs, thinking that this version of Leo has no skills or muscle, and is basically useless despite his good looks. Clenching his fist tightly, he tells himself to get a grip. He envisions a future where a silhouetted man proposes to a beautiful Lena amidst a field of flowers. Determined, he decides he'll just hire a tutor for her, confident her beauty will attract suitors instantly. Clenching his fists again, he wonders what he can do to earn money. He recalls two skills from a past life, hunting and swordsmanship, but notes there are no mountains nearby to hunt. He also considers that becoming a mercenary would mean leaving Lena to travel, an option he wants to avoid. Looking down at his simple shoes, he wonders if these are truly his only options. He stands silently in the street as the sun sets, deep in thought. As night falls, he walks alone through the cobblestone streets, holding a small, glowing object. He continues his solitary walk, the strange light illuminating his path. A voice calls out, "Hey!" and Leo stops, his expression turning serious. A large, scarred man puts an arm around Leo, asking for a talk while two others watch from behind. A sinister smile spreads across Leo's face as he clenches his fist, thinking, "Good." Surrounded by the thugs' silhouettes, their leader asks what makes him bold enough to walk the streets unarmed at night. The leader smirks menacingly, asking if the jingling he's been hearing is the sound of coins. Grabbing at Leo, the man snarls that he sure has a lot of money for a beggar. Wham! Leo counters with a swift, powerful punch to the man's stomach. In a blur of motion, Leo incapacitates the other thugs, leaving them groaning on the ground in shock. He leaps through the air and delivers a vicious kick to another thug's face. Enraged, the last thug pulls a dagger and screams about the filthy beggar. As the man lunges, Leo thinks that while his current body is weak, he trained relentlessly in a previous scenario. The thug looks stunned as Leo coolly states he doesn't need a weapon. With a predatory grin, Leo declares he doesn't need swordsmanship for a common thug and smashes his fist into the man's jaw. Pow! The thug reels back, spitting blood from the force of the blow. Defeated, the thug collapses to the ground, his dagger clattering beside him as Leo stands over him. Leo calmly reaches down and picks up the fallen dagger. He thoughtfully inspects the blade, twirling it in his hand. The first thug, trembling on the ground, glares up at Leo and vows he won't let this slide. Leo's eyes glow with menace as he raises the dagger, a bloody slash effect underscoring his deadly intent. He walks away from the scene, casually tossing a small pouch of coins he's acquired. Wiping a smear of blood from his shirt, Leo smirks, pleased with his decent profit for a quick job. Looking towards a large building, he thinks that to make real money, he needs to join the Famiglia, standing determinedly before its doors. Inside, the scene shifts to a man sweeping a wooden floor. The man, who wears an eye patch, stops sweeping and addresses a shadowy figure, stating that they're closing up soon. Bam! Leo slams the eye patch-wearing clerk against a wall, pressing the thug's dagger to his throat. The terrified clerk stammers, asking who sent him, while Leo thinks to himself that this is just as he expected. With a sharp gaze, Leo concludes that this man is no ordinary clerk. The clerk holds up his hands and his broom, trying to de-escalate the situation by suggesting they talk calmly. Leo recalls how a different man was dragged to the stable in the last scenario, realizing his hunch was correct. He deduces that the Familia uses its carriage rental business as a front to smuggle illegal goods. A symbolic image of a serpent confirms that the Famiglia runs most of the carriage rental shops in the city. A muscular man with short dark hair enters the room, demanding to know what's going on. The man scoffs at the idea of a beggar causing trouble, as the clerk explains that Leo just barged in. The muscular man dismissively asks if this is a new begging tactic and warns Leo to put the dagger away. Leo tosses the thug's bloody rags and dagger onto the floor, reporting their location in the West Alley. He calmly turns to leave, telling the clerk he will return tomorrow as the muscular man watches him go. Muscular man silently orders the clerk to go and verify Leo's story. Returning to Cassia's shop, Leo enters and asks if there's any blood on his shirt. As he starts pulling off his soiled shirt, a concerned Lena calls out to her appa. Lena angrily asks why he's so late, and he laughs nervously, explaining he was looking for a job. Lena looks at him with concern, saying he must have had a tough day, but he quickly insists it was fine. He asks Lena what she did today, and she quietly responds that she stayed in the room. Leo tells her he's going to wash up, and asks her to wait, leading her away gently. He notices her sad expression and resolves to get her something nice tomorrow to cheer her up. The next morning, sunlight streams down on the quiet shoe shop. Yawning, Leo stretches and decides he needs to find a tutor for Lena. He walks through the busy town square, a determined but echoing in his thoughts. Lost in the crowd, he wonders where on earth he's supposed to find a tutor. He approaches a woman to ask about tutors, but she says she isn't sure. Leo turns away, his shoulders slumped in momentary defeat. An older man approaches, asking if he's looking for a tutor, and Leo eagerly asks if he can help. The man offers to act as a mediator for a small fee, asking what his requirements are. Leo specifies he needs someone with integrity, preferably older, who won't be swayed by Lena's beauty. He adds that skill level isn't a high priority, which makes the older man chuckle. Leo narrates that he found a tutor this way, as he's shown running into the shop to greet an older woman. He asks the tutor how the lesson went, and she replies that Lena is very pretty, which is why she understands his choice. The tutor smiles kindly, assuring Leo she will be discreet and not speak of Lena to anyone. As she agrees to come twice a week, Leo cheerfully pays her for the books and a month of lessons. The tutor departs, promising to see him in 2 days as the door closes behind her. Cassia leans against the wall with a knowing smile, complimenting Leo on being a good brother. Leo looks away silently before announcing that he's heading out again. Cassia asks if he found a job, while in another room, Lena excitedly examines a new book. Pausing in the doorway with a serious expression, Leo hesitantly replies, "Maybe." That night, Leo follows the muscular man from the Familia through the dark streets. The man leads him to a large wooden door, telling him to follow inside. Inside, a large, bald man sits at a desk, writing with a quill by candlelight. Leo observes the man, thinking that while he's heard of him, he seems surprisingly petite. The bald man looks up from his work, silently sizing up the slender young man before him. The man greets him, remarking that anyone who can handle 3 thugs with such a slender body must be skilled, but Leo demurs. A sinister grin spreads across the bald man's face as he says they'll see about that. Holding a lantern, the man tells Leo to follow him so he can test his skills. As they walk, the man asks if a dagger is his main weapon, but Leo says he prefers a 2-handed sword. The bald man laughs, amused, guessing that Leo must come from a knight's family. A boot steps through a doorway as someone laughs, calling out to the people inside. A bald man holding a lantern and the blonde man find 3 men slacking in a barn, who jump up in shock, calling him boss. The 3 men bow in apology, but the bald man dismisses it, saying he's not there to scold them. The blonde man calmly requests 2 wooden swords, specifying one should be a 2-handed sword. The bald boss orders a muscular man named Daol to spar with the new guy, and Daol eagerly agrees. Kukudao smirks, ready to test the newcomer's skills, while the blonde man stares back with quiet confidence. In the hay-covered barn, the blonde man faces Daol, ready to begin their sparring match. The blonde man grips his wooden sword, realizing that if he loses this fight, he won't be leaving in one piece. The bald boss sits on a hay bale, giving Daol permission to go all out against the new recruit. Dale notes that while a 2-handed sword is strong offensively, it's defensively weak. Seizing on his opponent's analysis, the blonde man thinks, in that case, and lunges forward to attack. Declaring he'll attack first, the blonde man's sword clashes powerfully against Daol's. Ugh! Dale grunts as he blocks a powerful downward swing from the blonde man with his shield. The blonde man spots a critical opening in his opponent's defense. He swiftly drops his large sword to grab the smaller one his opponent lost control of. In a stunning reversal, the blonde man holds the tip of the wooden sword to a shocked Daol's throat. With the blade at his neck, Daol concedes defeat as the triumphant blonde man stands over him. The blonde man stands silently, holding the sword after his decisive victory. The bald boss laughs, officially welcoming the skilled blonde man into the Corolla Familia. Meanwhile, Lena sits alone, sadly wondering what her brother is doing since he didn't come home. She remembers with worry the sight of blood on her brother's body as he changed his clothes. Her concern deepens as she also recalls seeing a blood-stained knife among his things. A dark-haired woman offers Lena a drink, bluntly suggesting that her brother must be a thug. Confused, Lena asks what the woman means by thug. The woman sips her tea thoughtfully before explaining they are people who fight with swords. She internally reflects that the work didn't seem as dangerous as she initially thought. Lena asks if being a thug is hard, and the woman cryptically replies, asking if any job isn't. An older woman arrives, calling for Lena, who excitedly runs to greet her, teacher. Lena rushes across the room to her teacher, eager for her lesson to begin. The teacher asks if Lena finished her homework, and the girl quietly confirms that she has. Noticing the girl's somber mood, the teacher gently asks Lena why she looks so sad. Lena hesitates, clutching the necklace her brother gave her as she prepares to ask a difficult question. Her teacher explains that thugs are bad people who steal from or hurt others. Lena is horrified by the definition, realizing her brother might be a bad person. Tearing up, she blames herself, thinking her brother is doing terrible things because of her. She clenches her dress, her mind filled with turmoil and guilt. A new resolve shines in her eyes as she decides she wants to help her brother. The scene shifts to a lodging house provided by the Corolla Famiglia. Looking at a plaque of a wolf's head in a noose, a man wonders if the prince of the Aston Kingdom is coming. At a tavern table, the blonde man's companion confirms the rumor about the prince's visit. The companion explains he heard the news from a friend working as a liaison in the north. The blonde man recognizes the name of the visiting prince, Adolf de Claus. A vision reveals that, due to his past achievements, the prince holds a favorable impression of him. The narration explains that a royal visit from another kingdom is a major, rare event. The blonde man asks his companions why the prince is coming to their kingdom. One man jokes that he might be here to marry their beautiful Princess Chloe. The blonde man is taken aback by the suggestion, while his friends laugh and daydream about such a marriage. Taking a drink, he privately considers the war event and wonders if it's tied to this betrothal scenario. A diagram reveals the game's branching paths. The betrothal scenario starts in winter, while war begins in summer. He calculates that if the year is the same, the war is set to begin next spring. A question hangs in the air, framed by floating petals. Will war break out in this scenario too? He theorizes that if the scenarios are connected, then versions of Lena and Leo exist in both Avril Castle and Demos Village. In what appears to be Demos Village, a blonde Leo sits alone, resolving to first confirm if a war will start. Whoosh! Massive, cheering crowd fills a wide city street celebrating a grand procession. A column of knights in full silver armor marches forward, holding bright red banners. A handsome man with dark blue hair and a red cape confidently rides a horse through the cheering city. Standing in the crowd, Leo recognizes the rider as the same prince from before, while women nearby swoon over his majestic appearance. A woman with hearts in her eyes shouts for the prince to wave, much to Leo's visible irritation. Leo watches the prince with a focused, serious expression. As the prince glances towards the crowd, Leo quietly wonders if his favorability skill will have any effect. The prince turns away without a sign of recognition, making Leo nervously laugh and doubt his influence. Leo feels helpless watching the procession depart, realizing there's nothing he can do as the crowd cheers. A week later, a carriage carrying several hooded figures clatters through a town square at night. A hooded man cries out in pain as a blade slashes him across the face. From above, the remaining hooded figures react in shock as two of their comrades lie dead on the cobblestones. With his eyes glowing a menacing yellow, Leo glares intently from the shadows. One of the hooded men draws a dagger, calling Leo a puny guy for daring to face them alone. In a blur of motion and steel, Leo swiftly cuts down the remaining attackers. With the fight over, the muscular man from the Famiglia praises Leo's work and offers to buy him drinks. Leo, with blood on his face and hands, calmly wipes his blood-stained sword, stating he's just doing his job. Muscular man scolds his associate for being loud, reminding him the boss ordered them to keep a low profile. But the other man dismisses it since the prince has already left town, which shocks Leo. Leo cries out in alarm, stunned to learn that the prince has already gone. The two men gossip about the chaos surrounding Princess Chloe, calling her a loose woman. The cigar-smoking man explains the princess was caught secretly meeting Count Herman's son. Leo asks if they mean the famous swordmaster, and the men confirm, noting the king must be troubled. Leo listens silently as they continue discussing the princess's affair with the infamous rogue. A profile describes Count Herman Ferret as a great swordmaster and politician, while his son, Gilbert, is known as a prodigal rogue. Recalling an image of the flirtatious pair, Leo wonders just what exactly happened between them. The cigar-smoking man laughs, adding that the princess supposedly kissed Gilbert right in front of the prince. Leo takes a drag from a cigarette, his expression grim as he realizes the situation is more serious than he thought. He reasons that the slighted Aston Kingdom will not let this humiliation slide, relieved that he chose not to enlist as a soldier. Exhaling a cloud of smoke, he somberly questions if this is how the war will begin. The curtain of war is officially raised, symbolized by the clashing crests of two powerful kingdoms. The repercussions of the royal scandal have trickled down, now involving the city's back alley gangs. From a doorway, Leo overhears two men complaining about how difficult it has become to acquire weapons. Leo and the bald man from the Famiglia walk together with purpose. The bald man turns to his crew and orders them to move out. Wah! A rival gang member screams in terror as their group is suddenly attacked. As an illegal arms supplier, the Bursa Familia's business boomed, attracting a violent response from their rivals. The rival gang launches an all-out assault, determined to strike the Bursa Familia. A man discovers the Famiglia's hidden stash of weapons after defeating an opponent. The bald Familia boss grins with satisfaction, telling his men to take it all. An enemy with a snake tattoo on his arm charges the bald man with an axe, screaming, "Die!" The bald man watches in shock as the axe swings towards him. In a flash of light, Leo intercepts the blow, blocking the axe with his own blade. Leo now wields the enemy's axe in his hand. In a brutal, sweeping motion, Leo swings his sword, spraying blood. With the bald man watching, Leo executes another enemy with the captured axe. Bloodied but smiling, Leo receives thanks from the bald man, who says it's no problem. The bald man smiles, admitting that, while he was initially suspicious of Leo, his doubts have been completely cleared. In a flashback, a blonde man is formally declared a part of the Corolla Famiglia. Walking through town, the blonde man is called out to as a thug. A burly, brown-haired man gestures for the blonde man to come here, but he remains silent and watchful. The blonde man's hand moves toward his sword hilt, wondering if the man is from the rival Launo Famiglia. After the burly man remarks that this has never happened, the blonde man challenges him, asking if he has something to say. The man asks if he is Cassia's boyfriend, surprising the blonde man, but then says he doesn't care. He warns the blonde man not to bring suspicious hooded figures into their territory. The blonde man coolly assesses the situation, wondering if the hooded person was a spy from Bursa. The burly man explains he had to ask because a rival thug was seen nearby. The blonde man apologizes for the trouble. As the blonde man leaves, the burly man advises him to be good to Cassia, calling her a pitiful girl. He adds that Cassia seems motivated lately, now that she's studying with a tutor. Dismissed by the man, the blonde man gives a final, thoughtful look back. Leo enters a shop, announcing his arrival to Cassia, who greets him after a long time. Looking up from her work on a shoe, Cassia directly asks if he told people he was her boyfriend. She stands and explains that it was a man named Obert, and she had no other excuse. A flustered Leo blushes, touching his chin in surprise. Cassia leans in, lifting his chin and admitting that she kinda likes him. Stuttering in shock, Leo pulls back, wondering why an achievement notification just appeared. An ecstatic Leo rushes over to embrace Lena, happy to see her. As Leo leads Lena away, he apologizes to Cassia for being busy and mentions he brought snacks. Cassia watches them leave with a somber and impassive expression. Later, Leo asks Lena if anything happened while he was away, and she assures him everything was fine. He follows up by asking if she's studying well with her teacher, to which she quietly agrees. Leo smiles, encouraging her to study hard even when he can't visit. Lena notices a new scar on her brother's face and asks him about it. He pats her head, dismissing it as a work injury, but she pleads for him to stop what he's doing. Surprised, Leo asks her what she is talking about. He forces a wide, unsettling grin, attempting to appear cheerful. He promises to quit his work soon, once things get better, as a worried Lena looks on. Telling her to focus on her studies, Leo says he'll come again before leaving her alone and sad. After he's gone, an emotionally exhausted Cassia slumps over her workbench. Lena approaches her with concern, calling out to her, "Big sis." Lena asks Cassia if she is going out to work now. Cassia claims she is just running some errands, leaving Lena in silent contemplation. Lena nervously clasps her hands, asking if there's anything she can do to help. When Cassia asks why, Lena explains that her brother seems to be having a hard time because of her. Sitting on the floor, Cassia asks if Leo directly asked for her help. Lena admits he didn't, but passionately declares she wants to help because she hates seeing him struggle. Cassia questions what would change even if Lena earned money, leaving the girl speechless. She tells Lena to just study as she's told, questioning what kind of work a girl like her could even do. Dejected, Lena believes Cassia is right, thinking that scavenging for trash won't earn enough to change anything. As Cassia asks if she's done, Lena desperately thinks about her brother's future if things continue this way. With sudden resolve, Lena calls out to Cassia, startling her. Under the night sky, Lena stands before Cassia and announces her desire to buy a house. Cassia listens to the girl's declaration with a silent, knowing look. Lena passionately explains that her dream is to live with her brother in a nice house and to feel useful. Cassia shrewdly points out that this goal seems to be more for Lena's own desires than for her brother's sake. Taken aback by the astute observation, Lena looks flustered and nervous. In a cute aside, Lena stammers that her brother would surely like the house, while Cassia waves it off, saying she didn't mean to blame her. The dark-haired woman admits to Lena she once helped someone for selfish reasons, and it ended badly. Lena looks at her with concern, thinking, "Big sis." The woman turns away thoughtfully, brushing back her long dark hair. Turning back with a slight smile, she offers to find something for Lena to do, and Lena thanks her. Inside her workshop, the woman rummages through a chest, asking if Lena wants to go today, to which Lena agrees. Lena stands silently, now wearing a necklace with a large blue gem, a bead of sweat on her cheek. The scene shifts to a bustling, lamplit street at night, filled with cloaked and hooded figures. Now wearing a dark hood, a disoriented Lena wonders aloud where she is. Two men accost the dark-haired woman, leeringly inviting her to come play with them. Ignoring them completely, the woman walks on with Lena, who glances back nervously. They arrive at an elegant building framed by red roses, where a man stands waiting by the door. The man at the door looks at the hooded Lena and asks who the kid is. The dark-haired woman curtly tells him she brought them and to open the door, while he complains about their cloaks. Inside is a lavish hall filled with well-dressed patrons, where a harpist plays amidst a shower of red petals. Lena pulls down her hood, her face flushed with shock and surprise at the scene. The dark-haired woman presents the stunned Lena, announcing, "Here she is." The man from the entrance opens a large wooden door, leading them into a private room. They enter an office where a man with curly white hair sits behind a grand desk. The man looks up and greets the dark-haired woman as Mrs. Cassia. Cassia looks annoyed, remarking that he's early and reminding him not to use that name. The man apologizes, explaining it's a habit, as he stands to greet them properly. He gestures toward the still-hooded girl, asking Cassia who she is. Cassia pulls Lena's hood back with a flourish, revealing her to the man. The white-haired man's eyes widen in utter shock as he sees Lena's face. Leaning back in his chair, he asks Cassia if she really thinks Lena can work in a place like this. He taps his finger against his temple, lost in thought. Slamming his hand on the desk, he declares that she can't work there. He explains that she's too precious for this place and suggests she see the owner instead, as Lena looks on sadly. Cassia erupts in anger, slamming the desk and berating him for his inability to make a decision. Grabbing Lena's arm, Cassia prepares to leave, stating they can find work elsewhere. The manager quickly stops her, laughing as he says he only wanted to offer her better conditions. Cassia pauses, her expression still wary as she asks what he expects her to do for him. He offers to turn one of his stores into a respectable establishment for her if she pays a year's salary up front. As a scarred, white-haired man who must be the owner appears, Cassia counters by offering 10 years' worth of salary, shocking the manager. The manager smirks, realizing that with Lena's stunning beauty, word will spread fast. The owner asks if she can start tomorrow, but Lena looks down sadly, remaining silent. Cassia intervenes, stating that Lena won't sign a contract and will only work long enough to get by. The manager reassures Lena that the task isn't difficult and asks if she can do it, but she can only question if it's really her. Lena recalls her brother, Leo, telling her to study hard even if he can't visit often. Inspired by her brother's hard work, Lena clenches her fists with newfound resolve, thinking, "I can do it." She faces the manager and agrees to do as her sister Cassia says. The man smiles, introducing himself as Breton Zauer and welcoming her. Breton Zauer formally kisses her hand, and a flustered Lena introduces herself. He remains silent for a moment, observing her with a thoughtful expression. Sitting at his desk, Breton muses that while Cassia wants a better fate for Lena, a contract would mean higher pay. A month later, a narration box announces the end of the war between the two familias. In a dimly lit tavern, a muscular bald man confronts a dark-haired man sitting at a table. A more mature-looking Leo smiles, resolving to ask the Famiglia to protect Lena. Continuing his plan to find her a husband, he kicks open a door, cheerfully announcing his return to Lena. Leo thinks of Cassia, who sits silently with her arms crossed. Smiling, Leo muses that while Cassia is a bit odd, she is a good woman. He happily imagines a future with her, thinking he might get with Cassia after this is all over. As he enters a room, Leo cheerfully calls out for Lena. Lena, looking radiant in a pink dress, smiles and asks if she can show her brother something. Ta-da! She proudly presents a wooden chest overflowing with gleaming gold coins. A confused Leo asks what the money is, and Lena excitedly explains she earned it so they can buy a nice house. His smile vanishes as a notification for Achievement Manager appears, referencing income brought in by employees. Clatter. The chest of gold coins is knocked over, spilling across the floor. Leo clutches his chest in horror, his voice trembling as he asks Lena what she has done. He grabs Lena's shoulders in a panic, furiously demanding to know what she did behind his back, shocking her. A tearful and frightened Lena stammers that she just made some money. Cassia appears in the doorway, her expression unreadable. Leo slams his hand into the scattered gold, demanding to know what this cursed money is as Lena questions his anger. Turning his rage on Cassia, Leo shouts, demanding to know what she made Lena do. Cassia calmly replies, "What's the big deal?" explaining she simply showed Lena how to earn money. A bewildered Lena watches her brother's outburst, wondering why her usually cool-headed Appa is so angry. Cassia questions what's wrong with earning money, but Leo glares back, implying the answer is obvious. In a sudden burst of fury, Leo grabs Cassia by the collar, as Lena screams for him to stop, insisting Cassia did nothing wrong. Cassia gasps for air, calling Leo a damn brat as he holds her tight. Lifting her off the ground, Leo roars that he asked her to keep Lena's work a secret. With a menacing shadow over his face, he coldly tells Cassia that she's messed up his plans. Devastated, Lena kneels amidst the spilled coins, quietly mourning her lost money. Tears stream down her face as she asks Leo if he has any idea how she earned it. Lena screams for him to stop, confessing that Cassia didn't force her and that she went there on her own. Stunned by her confession, Leo slowly releases Cassia, his attention fixed on Lena. His own eyes well up with tears as he looks at his sister and asks, why? Seeing him cry only confuses Lena more, who wonders why her brother is both crying and angry. Lena breaks down completely, crying out about why she can't go out and what he could possibly know. Overwhelmed with sorrow, Leo can only stare back at her in disbelief. Collapsing to the floor, Lena tearfully asks why he's saying such things to her. She covers her face, sobbing that she didn't do anything wrong. "I hate you," brother Lena screams, before storming out of the room as Leo calls her name in desperation. He immediately bolts after her, chasing her down a dark, narrow alleyway. He frantically yells for Lena to stop, but she screams back for him to leave her alone. As Leo rounds a corner, an arm blocks his path, and he wonders what's happening. Leo pulls a dagger, coldly ordering the man to move aside, much to the man's surprise. Lunging forward, Leo warns the man to back off or get hurt. The man grits his teeth, thinking that this kid has completely lost his mind. Hearing the commotion, a group of men run down the alley to investigate. The brown-haired man warns Leo to drop the knife, stating he's only holding back for Cassia's sake. With glowing eyes, Leo repeats his warning to back off. Leo lunges, but the man dodges and delivers a powerful punch to his gut. The blow knocks the wind out of Leo, sending him flying backward. He hits the ground hard as the men surround him. They quickly pin Leo down as he struggles, shouting, "Damn it!" One of the men stomps on Leo's arm, knocking the dagger from his grasp. Pinned and defeated, Leo glares with fury, thinking that if only he had his dual swords, he would have killed them all. A burly man orders his subordinates to grab the blonde brat and follow him, and they immediately comply. Dragging a struggling Leo into a building, the burly man brings him before Cassia. The man, holding Leo, turns to Cassia and demands to know what is going on. With a weary sigh, Cassia explains that Leo is upset because she introduced his younger sibling to work. The man asks if the girl who ran past was Leo's sibling, and Cassia apologizes, saying the girl seemed to be in a dire situation. Leo glares intensely, telling them to step aside and let him handle his own problem. Smack. The man hits Leo across the back, warning him that if this happens again, he will wipe out the entire Corolla family. Leo furiously demands to know where Lena went, and Cassia calmly states that she probably went back to work. Turning on Cassia, Leo demands to know why she gave Lena work, to which she replies that Lena wanted to help him. Lashing out, Leo calls her a bitch and screams that she should have told him first. Cassia yells back, asking what the big deal is about her giving Lena a job. She tearfully explains she did anything to save her sick father, insisting he would have died otherwise. Unmoved, Leo coldly states that her situation is none of his concern, because Lena is the most important person to him. Cassia smirks, pointing out that he lied to Lena about his job, and that his sister probably feared for his life. Stunned into silence, Leo grits his teeth as her words hit their mark. The scene shifts to Lena, who is shown diligently writing on a document, seemingly signing a contract. Panicked, Leo asks what kind of contract it is. Cassia speculates it's for years of exclusive work, given Lena's beauty. His eyes blazing with fury, Leo seethes at her words. In a blur of motion, Leo lunges and grabs Cassia by the throat. Cassia chokes and claws at Leo's hand as he strangles her. Suddenly, Leo's hand begins to dissolve into particles of golden light. A system message appears, thanking him for playing Raising Lena. The scene changes to a beautifully dressed Lena sitting elegantly among flowers. Leo stares in disbelief, uttering his sister's name. A notification announces the beggar's siblings ending, revealing Lena became a tavern madam and Leo, a tavern keeper. A scroll details Lena's tragic fate. After a difficult life, she became a powerful political manipulator, but was ultimately assassinated. A second scroll reveals Leo's story. He became a gangster, then a tavern keeper, and died protecting Lena from her assassins. A man who looks like Leo collapses in a void, realizing with horror that he drove Lena away. A modern-day man with dark hair appears in a digital haze, resolving that he must read more. Analyzing Lena's history, he discovers that their surname, Uriel, belongs to the Conrad royal family, making them heirs to the throne. A flashback shows a young, tattered Leo comforting a crying Lena, as the man understands they were an exiled prince and princess. He focuses on the detail that Lena was killed by knights sent by Count Ferret. The man theorizes that a sword master must have been involved in stopping an invasion from the Aston Kingdom. As two warriors appear in his mind, he realizes the possibility of death increased in the engagement scenario. The dark-haired man grits his teeth, furious that Cassia ruined his plans for Lena's peaceful life and his own intelligence gathering. He vows to settle the score, as a notification announces, "You failed to clear Raising Lena." A new message appears, stating that since Lena's achievements were greater, her lovemaking skill is being passed to Leo as the game restarts. The scene resets to a peaceful forest, where a young Leo and Lena are picking berries together. Lena happily chatters about something Sister Leslie said while picking berries. The two siblings hum contentedly as they work side by side in the lush greenery. Lena holds up a perfect raspberry with a bright smile, and the man watches her with a fond expression. A portrait of Lena appears as the man's thoughts reveal his initial happiness at the reset, before he knew it would just keep repeating. Another portrait shows Lena being grabbed, as he recalls the second run ended with her being kidnapped on the way to the capital. Holding a berry, he wonders what to do this time, knowing the two princes of the Oran Kingdom are trash. He considers making Lena the princess of their small village, recalling the story of a farmer who became a saint. He then thinks about sending Lena to the capital church, remembering there's a priest event. While he imagines Lena fulfilling her dream as a priestess, he realizes he would still be stuck in this endless cycle of suffering. He closes his eyes, trying to formulate a better plan. Deciding to travel alone to gather information, he is interrupted by Lena's voice calling out his name. Lena snaps him out of his thoughts, asking why he's so lost in thought and telling him to pay attention. Haha. Leo, in a thought bubble, muses about dinner plans, while Lena looks on with a curious gaze. Lena stands outside a stone house, calling out for Leo. Lena smiles softly, looking towards the distance. Lena clutches her bag, inwardly wondering if it's truly okay for her not to attend church for the first time. Lena thinks about how Leo's gaze towards her seems to have changed lately. She questions what Leo would say, wondering if he would encourage her not to give up on becoming a priest. Lena considers whether Leo would be happy about her pursuing the priesthood. In a flashback, young Lena passionately declares her dream to become a priest and help the suffering, as young Leo listens intently. Young Leo reflects on being so caught up in her dream that he didn't notice his own feelings. He then remembers the restriction that priests cannot get married. Leo opens a door, calling out Lena's name with a cheerful smile. Leo smiles, asking Lena what's happening today. Lena looks at him with a thoughtful hum, her expression suggesting suspicion. Leo appears surprised as Lena questions his suspicious expression, asking if he's trying to trick her. Leo denies trying to trick her, claiming he's just happy to see her, but Lena playfully warns him not to do anything strange. Leo, looking slightly panicked, once again asks Lena what's going on. Lena, with a knowing smile, suggests they go pick wild mushrooms. Lena eagerly agrees, saying she just needs a moment to prepare. Wah! Leo enthusiastically takes Lena's hand, declaring they should go. Leo looks surprised when Lena remarks on his quick readiness, then awkwardly explains there isn't much to prepare. Lena confronts Leo, accusing him of hiding something, which he denies. Lena demands to see his bag, and Leo inwardly sighs, realizing she is too sharp. Lena looks surprised to find Leo's bag empty, while he smugly says he told her so. Leo inwardly acknowledges that Lena is exceptionally smart and perceptive in their childhood friend scenario. Leo determines he must be more careful going forward. Lena confides that she can't afford the capital church and doesn't want to leave her parents behind. Leo blushes, his heart fluttering, as Lena's comment about living in the forest with him evokes a strong reaction. Leo inwardly confirms his feelings, recognizing that he likes Lena. Lena directly asks Leo if he wants her to become a priest or not. Leo awkwardly clears his throat, admitting he'd like her to stay with him, but encourages her not to give up on her dream. Lena leans in, playfully asking Leo, "Really, Tilda?" "Why Tilda?" Leo flinches as Lena continues to question why he keeps asking that. Leo thinks about having to part ways with Lena, reaching for her hand. Leo looks at Lena with a complex expression, unable to voice his thoughts. Lena and Leo walk together through a dark, moonlit forest. A cheerful priest joyfully announces that Lena's path is settled, and she will be taken to the cathedral. Lena looks shocked, while Leo watches the priest with a somber expression. A female priest praises Lena, explaining the village priest and monk spoke highly of her, and invites her to accompany them to the cathedral. Lena's eyes sparkle with excitement, asking if she's truly going to the cathedral and wondering if she's dreaming. Leo and Lena exchange a moment of silent, concerned understanding. Lena turns to the priest, about to speak. Leo urgently asks the priest if he may go as well. Leo expresses his willingness to study hard to become a servant for the church, asking if it's possible, as the two priests observe him. Lena thinks about Leo's family, who consider hunting sacred. The female priest thoughtfully considers Leo's request. The female priest smiles reassuringly, saying she understands and it should be fine. Sir Corin, a stern-faced man, interjects, firmly stating that it's not possible. The female priest asks Sir Corin why Leo cannot join them. Sir Corin gravely states that Leo believes in a false god and that he has seen his tattoo before during his 30 years of service in the South. Leo looks serious, revealing the distinctive tattoo on his arm. A close-up reveals a complex tattoo on an arm, as a voice wonders if it is just an ordinary tattoo. A hooded man with the same tattoo crouches in the woods, recalling that his father had it, and he'd thought it was just a hunter's tradition. A stern man expresses outrage that someone who believes in a false god is being considered for the Crusaders, calling it a violation of their doctrine. As a pair of hands press into the dirt, a voice offers the heart and head of prey to a Lord Barbatos. The hands lift towards the sky as the person prays for the offering to be accepted and for their family to be protected. A woman with reddish-brown hair sighs, resigning herself to the fact that they cannot go against the church's doctrine. A young blonde-haired woman declares with conviction that if he can't go, then she's not going either. The woman, Lena, stands her ground, refusing to leave if Leo can't come, questioning if she's really expected to throw away such an opportunity. The reddish-brown-haired woman smiles gently, informing them they leave tomorrow morning, as they don't have the luxury of time. The woman believes it's better to let them resolve this themselves and expresses hope that she will see them tomorrow. As she walks away with an older, white-haired man, he suggests they give the two privacy, but she decides to stop pressing them for today. Leo and Lena stand in silence under the starry village night, surrounded by glowing particles. As Leo wipes away tears, Lena comforts him, promising not to go. He insists that she must. Overwhelmed with emotion, Leo covers his mouth as tears stream down his face. Lena passionately questions why he's giving up on his dream for her, reminding him that he was about to give up earlier too. He admits he wants to stay with her. Crying, Lena confesses she wants to be by his side, to get married, have children, and spend her life with him. Leo immediately rejects her proposal, leaving Lena to ask why not as they walk on. The two stand apart in the quiet village square under the light of a full moon. In a split view, single tears fall from both Leo's and Lena's eyes. PFT. Leo playfully teases Lena, saying it's too soon for kids, which makes her laugh and lightly punch his arm. In a tender moment, Leo's gloved hand reaches for Lena's. They hold hands, smiling warmly at each other as sparkles fill the air. A blushing Leo looks on with a soft, emotional expression. Lena looks down with a sweet, shy smile, her cheeks flushed. The scene transitions to a windmill spinning gently against the moonlit night sky. The next morning, a carriage has arrived, and villagers gather to see someone off. The reddish-brown-haired woman from the church notices their arrival with a small sound of surprise. As Leo and Lena approach, she asks if they have made their decision. With newfound resolve in her eyes, Lena announces that she will go. Just as the woman prepares for departure, Lena calls out for them to wait a moment. An older man and woman, her parents, rush through the street, calling out her name. Lena's father tries to give her something, but she gently refuses, telling him it's okay. Her mother tearfully insists she take it for emergencies. A priest approaches, and Lena calls out to him as he offers her something. The priest hands Lena a pouch of money, explaining that the villagers all contributed to her travel expenses and encouraging her to do her best. Overcome with emotion, Lena clutches the pouch, grateful for everyone's support. Leo watches the scene unfold from a distance, remaining silent. Wah! Lena suddenly rushes to Leo and throws her arms around him in a tight embrace. Gasp! The onlooking villagers are shocked by the public display of affection. The church official coughs awkwardly, looking away and muttering about the conduct of a future priest. Turning to Lena, the official asks if she is ready to go, and Lena agrees, taking her hand. As the carriage pulls away, Leo watches alongside the priest, whom he addresses as father. Leo asks the priest how long it will be until Lena is ordained. The priest estimates it will take 3 years, given Lena's intelligence, which is faster than the usual 4 to 5 years. Leo quietly contemplates the 3 years, noting that it is a significant amount of time. Later, a bearded man pours Leo a drink in a tavern, praising his recently improved hunting skills. Ack! Leo chokes on the strong drink, his eyes wide with surprise. Blurg! Feeling queasy, Leo wishes he had brought beer instead, as the older man calls his name. The man asks Leo for his thoughts on Lord Barbados, while Leo silently stares at a burning wheel symbol. Leo sits alone in a tavern, reflecting that his arm tattoo was the reason he couldn't follow Lena. He clenches his teeth, recalling his dream to become a crusader with her was denied because the tattoo was deemed a heretic symbol. He resolves to save money to visit Lena later, but is interrupted when he notices his father approaching. Leo remains seated as his father stands with his back to him, warming himself by the hearth. His father, a stern-looking man with a goatee, turns from the fireplace with a serious expression. His father asks if he'll be selling jerky by himself now. Leo is surprised by the question, recalling he'd only ever sold it with him before. A small smile touches Leo's lips as he wonders if this is his father's way of acknowledging him. Later, Leo trudges through the woods with a heavy sack, regretting his greed in gathering so much. He drops the sack to rest when a voice suddenly shouts, "Hey!" Startled, Leo looks up as someone calls his name. A young man with short brown hair greets him cheerfully, saying it's been a while. The man, whom Leo recognizes as Hans, offers him a drink, but Leo looks displeased. After Leo refuses, Hans says he'll go on ahead and walks away. Leo's eyes narrow as he watches Hans leave, pondering what to do about him. A flashback reveals Hans betraying them by selling a captured Lena to a hooded figure, leading to her being kidnapped and sold to the princes. Clenching his jaw in the present, Leo angrily wonders why Hans betrayed them. He tightens his collar, deciding the reason for the betrayal no longer matters. With renewed purpose, Leo hefts the heavy sack and continues his journey as the sun sets. The scene changes to Lena, now a maid, confiding in someone that her boyfriend has been acting strangely. Her mistress, a brown-haired woman, listens as Lena reveals her boyfriend is Leo, a servant at the same estate. The mistress inquires how long they've known each other, and Lena explains they grew up together since birth. The mistress thinks it's not her place to interfere, as Lena adds that Leo's strange behavior began when they decided to go to Lunetia. The mistress reassures Lena, suggesting Leo is just adjusting to his new environment and will be fine. Lena smiles, relieved, hoping that she was just being overly sensitive. Sometime later, the mistress sits on a balcony, dining with a well-dressed, brown-haired nobleman. She playfully questions the nobleman about the large number of knights he brought, asking if he intends to abduct her. He laughs, dismissing the idea and blaming it on his overprotective grandfather, while she inwardly expresses her disappointment. She remarks that she was hoping this meeting would be an opportunity to visit the Conrad kingdom. The man falls silent, then thinks to himself that he would also hate for their time together to end so soon. He privately considers asking her to accompany him, noting his grandfather gave no instructions against it. He presents her with an ornate box containing a beautiful red gem necklace, asking if she will accept it. She feigns delight, exclaiming how pretty the necklace is. A narrator explains that nobles must have gifts verified by a mage to ensure they aren't cursed. A magical sigil appears over the necklace as it's checked for malicious spells. The mistress muses that she wouldn't mind a charm spell from such an appealing man. Having accepted the gift, she stands from the table on the sunlit balcony. The nobleman gently places a hand on her shoulder from behind. He blushes and confesses his love for her as she watches him with a calculating gaze. With a gentle smile, she tells him she feels the same way. He reveals that his grandfather opposes their marriage, but vows he will do anything to gain his permission. Leaning in, he earnestly asks for her help in convincing his grandfather. The mistress finds his vulnerability endearing, impressed that he's being honest and not trying to handle everything alone. He embraces her passionately, declaring them lovers whom no one can tear apart as they kiss on the balcony. Elsewhere, Leo confronts Lena, demanding to know what she meant by her earlier statement. Lena calmly explains that the mistress offered her a letter of recommendation for the church and double pay to accompany her to the Conrad kingdom. She smiles brightly, reasoning that the 6-month trip is a perfect opportunity to earn the tuition money she needs for Lutetia. Leo panics, realizing this offer will ruin his own complex plan to find the prince while Lena earns money in the capital. Seeing his troubled expression, Lena asks him if he isn't happy for her. Forcing a smile, Leo lies that he's thrilled for her while desperately thinking he must stop this from happening. In a chibi-style thought bubble, he tries to find an excuse, but Lena cheerfully explains she's already sent money to her parents for the winter. Startled, Leo shouts in disbelief, realizing Lena already asked the young lady to send his wages to Demos village. As Lena silently observes him, Leo looks away with a troubled expression, unable to meet her gaze. Lena confronts him directly, asking if he's hiding something and pleading for the truth, confessing she's scared by his strange behavior. Resigned, Lena states she's going with her mistress and tells a silent Leo to let her know if he decides to join her. Later that night, Leo sits alone on his bed, hunched over in distress under the moonlight. He clutches his head in frustration, thinking he needed to go to the Holy Kingdom to use his tracking ability. A flashback shows him and Lena being held up at a border pass, where she tried to earn money for their families. Leo laments how his plans have become complicated now that Lena has found her own way into the church. He reasons that he can't force Lena to stay, especially since she has already grown suspicious of him. He wonders if he should have revealed the money he received earlier for her parents, but worries it would cover her tuition too soon. He also senses something strange is afoot. Leo questions how Lena became close to the mistress, noting that nobles rarely care for commoners. A memory of them as children picking berries illustrates that the childhood friend scenario has many hidden roadblocks. He recalls that an event in Demos village would have led Lena to leave for the church anyway. He reflects on the two paths before him, letting Lena go to become a priest or stopping her and having to marry her. He sits up in his bed, a decision forming. Sigh. Leo concludes that heading to the Conrad kingdom with her might not be a bad option after all. He remembers a key piece of information. A man named Count Peter of Orville knows the siblings' lineage. Looking out the window, he realizes that going to the Conrad kingdom is essential to reclaiming his lineage and gathering information. With new resolve, Leo thinks that if he can enter the duchy as a servant, he can uncover the secrets he needs.